Sit back and relax as you listen to Train Kickers Podcast. I'm Dave, and along with my co-host Dan and our special guest Steve, we plan to take you all around the exciting world of Titanicus. On tonight's episode, we're gonna hopefully finally finish our introduction to Titanicus, and then we're gonna go over some games that we played recently. And now, on to the show. And how are you this evening, Dan, on your first day back to teaching from your house, I believe, right?
No,
Or
no, no,
was
no,
it snow day?
no. No, they forced us to go into the school buildings to teach for 3 days with no students
Yes.
in, by the way. Yeah, no. They I always laugh because it's like people are always like, why do they make you do that? And my answer is always like, because fuck you, that's why. That's literally the answer every single time.
It
Um,
lets people who have higher positions feel like they matter when they don't matter at all. Because if they bring you in, now they have someone they can, boss around and tell what to do.
Essentially, yeah, no, that's about it. Yeah, so yeah, man, it's been, it's been good. It's been good. I can't complain too much because the kids were good, but other than that, it's been good. You know what I mean? I have a job. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, in this current environment, being able to have a job and everything like that, I can't complain otherwise. At least I have that part going. And how about you, Steve? Have in any better position than Dan here?
Yeah, more or less the same deal, except less administrators breathing down my neck. More, I guess, just working on event prep.
I don't know if on here because I can't recall. It's been a little bit. Obviously with the holidays, we got busy, so just trying to get back into it now. I forget on here. Did we ever actually even cover what you do?
I can't say we have.
I don't think we have. Let's keep let's reveal that mystery. 'Cause I don't know either. I'll be honest. I don't remember.
All right,
That's a good way to put that too.
Yeah. So I recently graduated college, and I was studying mechanical engineering with a focus in manufacturing. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, the job I had lined up kind of vanished. As it turns out, when everyone's wearing masks, no one's wearing lipstick. So the industry I was in, cosmetics,
Okay.
it took a bit of a hit. Yeah. So right now, I got a temporary thing going at the game shop. I'm running events for them, trying to keep the community active and, getting a little bit of spending money off of that.
And that's up at Toy Wiz, you said, right?
Yes.
If anyone is, because they're reasonably local to where either Dan and I are, or anyone in upper parts of New Jersey or lower parts of New York State, is there anything in particular, or where should they be looking if someone wants to? Is it a Facebook page? Is it a website?
So we have a Facebook page for our tabletop club specifically called, funnily enough, Toy Wiz Tabletop Club. That's where you get the most active engagement and responses for things relating to events and games at the store.
Okay. All right. Why don't we? I guess we'll go into a little bit of hobby to start with, and then that will lead us into what we're hoping is the final part of an introduction that we thought would be like, I don't know, maybe 2 hours total. And now we're looking at we've recorded for 4.5 to 5 hours, and we're still not done. But Dan, what have you? So I know what you were just doing. What were you just doing other than math?
I don't. It's embarrassing.
I do it.
No,
That's why I
so
brought it up. That was the whole reason.
Oh yeah, no. So back in the day, I mentioned this before in the podcast. One of my favorite games was Epic, and apparently some dudes have been playing Epic Heresy without letting me know. And I actually had an Epic army of Iron Warriors that I sold off. Right, it was around February, March. It was a huge Iron Warrior army. And now that I know that these guys are playing, I was like, oh, I could probably print a custodian army. And this guy hit me up and was like, yo, bro, I got you. And yeah, he hit me up with an army. So I have all these STL files that I'm just kind of screwing around with that are just custodians in 8mm, really good renders too. Like, I think I talked about this with you, Dave. I don't know if he like scanned the model and then shrunk it down, or if this dude designed it.
Is like, do you have any idea where he got them from?
I
No,
have
they do
no
look
idea.
really good.
Yeah, I have no idea. I literally have zero idea. But they're. It is hard to explain how like good these look. But yeah, no.
I saw the files the other day, and they're really nice. But because they're nice, I want to say they're not scans. in school, I worked with 3D printing and 3D scanning a lot. I worked in their 3D printing lab, and even on like industry grade scanners, it ends up being very noisy, or you
Okay.
end up getting only the most basic of shapes. Like for one of my assignments in a class, I was given a scan of something, and then I had to reverse engineer the scan by using the scan to kind of build I guess like a cloud of data points and fill in that cloud with geometry and basically rebuild the object from I guess you could consider it like a 3D shadow of it. So based on those files, I think those are all done by hand.
Jesus. Okay. And to be fair, like this is like, so I'm looking at, for example, I'm looking at Spear Custodies. He has 2 strips, so 2 strips of 5 in each. And each 5, so all 10 models are individually modeled. Like they're all different poses. One's 2-handed, one's one-handed, one has a cloak. So whoever did this, I'm not gonna say names because W might be like, oh my god, you're pretty name. But no, that's what I'm doing right now.
I don't know
They
if they
don't
can say that.
manufacture it.
Yeah.
They can't tell you what to do, Dan. You
What
live
do they
your life to the
technically
fullest.
do at 28? They technically do at 28. So like legality, it's kind of hard on that one because it's
Is
technically
there artwork, design, something or other?
yes.
Yeah.
So
Not
it's
product they make. So you
yeah.
know what? You're not selling them to anyone, so what does it matter?
It's true.
Also, my cat decided to knock down one of my the terrain pieces I own that's hollow on the inside. Remember the crates that we stood up? He
Yep.
knocked it down and it shattered everywhere.
Oh
And he's
no.
looking at me like he did nothing, and I'm so bad because that crate was like $10.
When did that happen?
Literally, as we're recording right now. I don't know if you heard in the intro.
No.
So for those who are listening, during the intro, if you hear me whispering shit into the mic and you hear a loud thud and cracking, that was literally my cat while we're recording, knocking down my terrain piece and me holding the expletives while Dave is introducing the podcast. It's like perfect timing for him to be a little shit.
When I was doing the intro there, I looked up and I did thought I heard a little something and I saw your side light up and I just figured, I don't know, you shifted or something like that. I didn't realize it was because you were trying not to go chase down your cat.
Oh, I was gonna kill him. I was gonna. To be fair, the terrain is from Game Mat EU, so this was like the 100. It's prepaid. It was like $120. Comes with a lot of stuff, right? But like price wise, probably those crates were like $10 a pop. So he just destroyed $10, and I'm like, just have to love him. He's okay. He's okay. I love him. Yeah,
That's what you get for having a cat.
it
Get
is
your
very
shit
true.
destroyed.
Yeah, it's cannot argue. Oh boy.
All right. How about you, Steve? Have you been actually up to anything? Now that you're working at a game store, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that would motivate more or less.
A little bit of both. So on
Okay.
one hand, I'm like, all right, I get, now that I kind of have a official position at the store, I could enact some changes that I've been wanting to see for a while with like, how things are organized, what's the
Nice.
expectations for like, terrain storage and things like that. It gives me time. I can say, listen, I'm gonna be here for these next 6 hours. I'm gonna really, I'm gonna kick ass on this, that, and the other, and I feel like I'm not wasting my time because I'm getting paid to do it. So it helps motivate in that sense. On the other hand, when I get home, I'm like, yeah, I spent the whole day staring at models. I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've been
Although
wanting to do
this,
that.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
about a centimeter short of victory when all of a sudden the pendulum swings and Dan happens to table me, get 2 additional turns to move and claim an objective.
It's ridiculous. We'll talk about
Similarly,
that.
I was
We'll
I
talk
was
about that. That was
1 point of damage away to either of 2 Titans to have eliminated just enough to give me a win. Instead, I lost by 1 point and just the basic Titanic clash scenario. So yeah, really craving that win. So Dan, if you're around, I gotta set that record straight. My
This
legion is
man
better
needs a
than yours.
rematch.
Yeah, no, that was a good match. We'll talk about that later on in the
Yep.
podcast. But that we'll talk about
Yeah.
that game. But
And
Jesus
then
Christ, that was when we talk about how good and balanced that was nail bitingly extreme.
every game we play is though.
Very true.
And then separate from Titanicus, I'm actually working on some, I want to say it's 10 mil scale frogmen miniatures for
Okay.
Warband. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
it's a little game made by Pendrake, and basically it's like their War Master equivalent sort of game. For anyone who knows War Master, I actually don't know War Master all that much. I just know it existed. But yeah, got a match scheduled for that tomorrow. Looking forward to it.
Sounds actually pretty fucking good.
People getting
Yeah, I'll
out in
send
the
you
gym.
pictures.
Don't tempt me, Satan.
I know we've tried tempting you with other things. Apparently, it's all your custodes keep pulling you back in.
Oh, absolutely, every single time.
On my side,
Every
at least,
single
what
time,
we've
without a doubt.
tried to tempt you with was that now we've started up Legion. Although, so I've played it in the past. I have some stuff for armies I don't really care for, honestly, just me personally. Some Rebel and Empire, which I still have those Rebels. If you want them, I'll hand them to you. Because I'm not going to probably need doing anything with them otherwise. But this week was a big purging of various things that I had. So I got rid of a bunch of X-Wing because I just wasn't playing it. Got rid of my Star Wars Armada stuff because, again, I wasn't playing it. I love that game, but I haven't played it in years and years. It's currently still in production, but nothing new is coming out. They've said the game isn't gone, but we're not currently working on anything. The cycle for a game is 2-3 years. So if you're not currently developing, you're looking at 4 years before maybe something comes out. So I was like, you know what? Let me try and sell that. Post it all up on Reddit. Within the first day, had almost all of it sold. I was able to do my Armada stuff as a trade for a whole bunch of Legion stuff. So this week I spent assembling all my Legion. I have more stuff coming in. I've finished my 2 squads of B2s. I finished one of the cheapo commanders, a T-55, I think it is. I just finished my big pursuit class tank, and currently,
Oh, those look cool.
yeah. Oh,
Those look cool.
it's a very cool look,
Yeah.
and it's a great kit. It's a lot of pieces. It's like 120 pieces in that kit. There's a lot of parts to it, but it is very cool looking. And I followed a bit of a modification from Sarastro's paint idea, which is essentially you lay down your base coat highlights, and then it's dry brushing and stippling all over it with various colors. He did more washes than I did on mine because mine's a bit of a darker tone, but did all that. And now I'm just trying to work on finishing up Cruel Boy stuff as well. So the rest of this week is going to be more Legion wherever that stuff comes in. Get all that painted up, assemble, and everything like that. And then I've really just 2 characters and Gobsprak left for Cruel Boys, and they're 100% done. It's the only things I have left for that stuff. So it'd be nice to actually get them done with. I would greatly enjoy being able to say I actually have a fully completed army and essentially have everything that they have in the range. Although they did announce one new character, but he's just an upgrade for of a unit leader, so I'm not going to worry about him.
Okay. By the way, I was talking about the Gloom Spite, right? The guy.
They just he's I forget his name, but he's got a vulture. They
yeah, it's got the cool vulture on the shoulder, right? Okay.
Yes,
yeah, we're talking about the same
they
thing.
showed his picture a couple months back, and because he was in the background of a different photo when they were showing things, and people said, "Hey, who's this guy? What's going on?" GW, of course, wasn't saying much. They said, "Oh, we'll tell you more about it in the future."
Shocking.
Yeah, they did finally reveal him, but they've revealed that he's essentially just a Gut Ripper unit champion. So he's a stand-in for that. So I mean, I don't know. Well, he's a character, so I can speculate as to what his price will be. And for that price, there's no way I
Probably
care.
30, 35. Mostly
35,
30.
Yeah. For a unit champ, that's not worth it, not at all. So I don't anticipate getting him or anything like that. That means my stuff will be done. All right. Well, it seems like we all at least were able to get some stuff done now with the break, although my break continues. You'll have to go back to work, but I don't.
Stupid college.
Yeah, well, we start 19th. 19th, I go back. And we're done.
That's funny enough.
Early May.
You'll love this. The 18th is when the kids come back, or supposedly when the kids come back. Apologies. Yeah.
Well, we got a message today from the president just saying, make sure people are vaccinated, boosted, stuff like that. I think it was today was the first day of the vaccine mandate in the college. Talking a bit about that and just saying it looks bad. Things are getting, worse overall, and sort of without saying it, pretty much a wait and see. If the numbers are still really bad, when it gets close to the time, maybe we are remote for a bit. But we have 2 weeks solid before we have to go back. And with the way numbers are peaking, in most places when they've done that, they've fallen almost as fast as they've risen because there's runs through the people that it can infect. So we might find, hey, by the time it's, time for us to start or anything like that, that it's fine. So who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah, well, they're waiting to say one way or the other because I'm sure they would love for us to be in person. They won't do it if it's not safe, obviously, but they love for us to be in person. So I don't think they want to say anything until they know we can't be.
Okay.
So, all right, why don't we get back into where we left off? So it's been about, for us recording wise, it's probably been about the better part of 2 weeks, and it's probably been about that since the last episode actually came out. With Christmas and all, we tried to give it a shot. It was just a little bit tough. But we had left off at going through essentially a little bit more detail the steps for Titanicus. We had went through up to the combat phase is where we had left off. So we went through our strategy phase. We went through command phase. We did our movement. We talked about what happens when you're repair phase, and we were at the point of actually wanting to shoot some people. So, Dan, tell us how do we shoot some people? I'm all nicely positioned. What happens now?
You positioned. You've done your repair. You're not in the orange. Now it is the shooting phase. And this is, I shouldn't say the shooting phase, by the way, because a lot of people kind of, especially if you're playing Titanicus, people always think the shooting phase and then it's close combat phase. It's actually intermingled. So that's why it's called the combat phase, because you actually do shooting and close. You basically do all your weapons, depending on if you're in range or not. So essentially you select the Titan, right? And it's alternating. So, or you select a unit if you have a Warhound unit. So you select the Titan, right? And again, this goes back to which Titan do you want. And then you select a weapon, all right? Or sorry, you select a target for that Titan. And then you select a weapon. There is no pre-measuring in this game. So if you, for example, shoot your Vulcan Mega Bolter, which is it's a very large version of a bolter, essentially, and it's 20 inches away, and you are 21 inches away, welp, that sucks. That's rough. That sucks. So it gives you a sense of like, oh my God, is this guy in range? Should I risk it? Should I go for a harder kill, but he's closer? So this is what plays into the strategy of the game. So you selected your target, you selected your weapon. They are, in range. And then it just comes down to what the card says.
And the arc.
It's really cool. Oh, and the arc.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yes.
And then you have the arc. Every weapon has its own arc. I mean, thankfully, it's not too complicated. Every armed weapon in the game is a 45-degree arc from the base.
90.
45
off the center. The overall arc.
45 off the center. The overall arc is not. It's you're 45 from the center of the base, but when you start from the edge of the base, it's 90. Essentially, all armed weapons are 90 from the front of the base, and depending on your Titan, the torso weapon will change. So, for example, Reavers have 360. They can rotate their turn around. But Warlords and War Masters and War Bringers are fixed forward. So it's basically the width of the base forward. And so you have your range, you have your weapons, your target, you have your arc and fire, and then you just read the card. And that's the cool kind of thing about Titanicus. It literally will tell you how many dice to roll, what the strength is, what special rules it has on it. It's very compact. You don't need to check the codex. You don't need to go to the book. It's literally, unless you need help with a special rule, but not that many special rules either. We'll get to that in a moment. But that's it. And then after you've resolved that weapon and you've resolved what it has done on the target, maybe it did damage, maybe it knocked off some shields, maybe it blew up the Titan, you select another weapon. Now, this is where, by the way, we had not an issue, but we had a little discussion about split fire in the last podcast. Yep. I asked on the Facebook group, which tends to get a lot of answers, and I asked on Dak as well, what the correct answer is. And ironically, it's not mine, it's not David's, it's closer to mine, but more convoluted. It's like it's mine, but with more steps. So if to recall, the split fire rule that we were discussing was whether or not you give your Titan split fire, do you have to elect the target before you select the weapons? So like I elect target A, B, C, and I'm going to fire this weapon there, this weapon there, this weapon there. So you pre-select those weapons for those targets. Or do you select a target, fire a weapon, resolve it, then select a weapon, or select a target, fire that weapon, resolve it, right? This is what you have to do. And it's weird that you have to do it this way, but it makes sense. So what it tells you
doesn't sound good when you say it that way.
No, it's because it's again, it's more it's a more convoluted way of the way I do it.
Mm.
Anyway. So what you have to do is technically select all the targets that you're going to fire at.
Yes.
Then you select a weapon, resolve that weapon, select another weapon, fire at that target, select another weapon, fire at the target. It sounds weird that way to me. And I don't know, Steve can like maybe say because it's like, okay, I'm split firing. I select all the Titans that are in front of me. It just sounds
It's a
weird
weird,
yeah,
unnecessary step in there of I declare everything as my target,
yes.
but I'm only shooting these 2 models.
Exactly. And it just sounds, I feel like it sounds better my way, where it's select the target, fire the weapon, resolve it, select the target, fire, because that's how it is in the fluff too. For those of you who've read the books, oh man, where's James when you need him? No, when you read the Titan books, it's literally the Moderata. I would be like selecting target, firing weapon, weapon battery and firing, selecting target, weapon. They'll actually, it's almost like a chain fire in BattleTech. You know, they'll go through the weapon systems because these Titans are old as fuck. You know, they can't fire all their weapons all at once. So yeah, that's
There's
kind
no.
of
The only reason I can think that you would want to be able to differentiate, like, again, I don't see it. There's no problem with the way that you do it, where it's I'm just firing the guns and I'm selecting as I go along. The only reason I could think that you might technically need to select them all first, other than that's the way the rule is written, but the only reason it could actually make a difference would be if there's, and maybe there is, because it's been a little bit, I haven't gone through some of the newer books in as much detail as I'd like, is that there was some sort of a reactive stratagem or anything like that that said, hey, if you were picked as a target, you get to do blank. Or if any legio had, when your Titan gets selected or a warrior, you got selected, something happens. That would be the only reason it could matter that you select everyone first.
I can see. Okay.
Almost have that scenario, except it
Okay.
doesn't work out. There is a custom Legio trait that lets you move backwards at full speed, but it also lets you, if you are declared as the target of a smash or melee attack at the end of a charge move, you can fall back 3 inches and attack with one of your weapons for 1 heat. But
Okay.
that doesn't apply to this because
No.
this isn't a charge, you're on split fire.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
guess
it's
it
weird.
future proofs against like other similar
Yeah,
rules, like you were saying.
exactly.
The
And it's so, but that's
only way I see
essentially the
it.
combat. That's the combat phase, though. It's actually not as different. I know I went off on a tangent about split fire, but it's actually not difficult. It boils down to select target and or targets if you're on split fire, select weapon, resolve the entire weapon, because the Titan could absolutely blow up in between you firing your weapons and destroy you in the middle of you doing your stuff. So, but that's essentially what it is. I mean, and then the cool thing about the combat phase is the weapons are exceptionally varied. So I mean, Steve can talk about this if he wants, about like
Mhm.
reactor die, scatter die, and like special kind of weapon rules, I guess.
Yeah, I could touch on this a little bit. So, I think we mentioned the reactor die earlier in the movement phase. It
Yep.
definitely shows its head again here. So some weapons just require so much energy to fire that it is a drain on your reactor to use them. One of the most famous examples of this kind of weapon would be the Bellicosa Volcano Cannon, or even the regular Volcano Cannon, which is massive drain on the reactor. So every time you fire it, you roll the reactor die and then you attack. If you rolled Machine Spirit symbol on that 1 in 6 chance and you then fail your command check, you actually stop doing what you're doing, resolve the Machine Spirit effect, and that's it for that Titan. So, yeah, the reactor die definitely could make a big change in the shooting phase. Similarly, when you're getting shot, you could push your reactor to re-roll ones on your saves, which is always nice. Sometimes I do it, even for a small thing like, you know what? I wouldn't mind, losing control of my Titan, letting Machine Spirit take over. And I actually got in a couple rounds of free shooting attacks over the weekend between my 3 games, where I, just pushed my reactor just to get the Machine Spirit, and I got lucky and rolled pick a weapon
Three
of your
shots.
choice and attack
Yep.
3 times. So like it worked out very nicely for me there. But I also managed to put a Reaver into the red, which is a challenge if you don't have volcano cannons. And I danced with death very, very closely for about 3 turns. It was terrifying. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the reactor die. Comes back, does its thing. Some weapons have a rule where you could boost its potency and roll the reactor die. One example of this would be the turbo laser, which grants you a -1 penalty to enemy save dice in exchange for pushing your reactor. I don't like it because that usually means a warhound is risking itself, and I'm famous for rolling double reactors on warhounds and killing titans without ever getting attacked. But yeah, so
That's
you
a
hit
bold
your
weapon to take on a
yeah.
warhound.
I did it twice in a single turn pushing for speed. It was painful. So painful. So yeah, I don't rate turbo lasers for that very reason. You don't have to push it, but the temptation is there. I just don't want that temptation. But
That's
yeah,
that
so
that's what it does. Like if you're not
yeah,
if you're not on a chassis where you're willing to push it, you're not getting the bonus that the weapon actually does.
that is true. That is absolutely true. Yeah, so that's the reactor die. Another very important die is the scatter die. So if you play
Oh God.
other Games Workshop games, you might think of scatter die. Oh yeah, so when I roll an attack with the blast weapon, I roll the scatter die, 2 dice. I subtract my ballistic skill, that gives you where it lands. Not how it works in Titanicus. So the way it works is you place the blast template, then you roll to hit, and if you hit, it's great. The template lands right where you say, and you're happy. But sometimes you miss, right? The way it works in Titanicus is you scatter it with the scatter die and a d10, and you go that far. After you play enough games, you kind of have the scatter distances memorized as to whether or not it still hits the Titan and how much.
Mm.
Like a 1-inch scatter is always going to hit the Titan unless you go off center by some big degree. A 2-inch will probably clip. Maybe it'll still hit if it's going along the diagonal on a Titan. Just things like that. More than once, I have scattered weapons and hit myself with them. It's well, you gotta risk it for the brisket.
I should point out, by the way, if you hit it, because people who remember the scatter die remember, oh, but I roll a hit and it's a hit. No, if you missed with that weapon, on the scatter die hit, there's a tiny black arrow that's more pronounced than the rest. That's the direction you're going. So if you miss with a scatter die, or you miss with that shot, and you have to roll that scatter die, it's an always deviation.
Yeah.
You don't hit.
Yes. Unlike as Dan and I were figured out this weekend, unlike for
Oh my God.
stratagems that scatter blasts, those actually hit if you roll the hit symbol.
Yes.
Those scatter. They aren't missed templates being moved for the blast rule.
They're the
Weird
original,
little,
if you will. Yeah.
yeah, weird little thing going on there. And then last but not least, you hit a Titan, its shields are knocked out. Guess it's time to figure out what you hit and what you broke. That's the location die. It's a standard D6 shape, and it's got 4 locations, right? Not no 5. There's 5 different locations you can
5
hit.
locations, yeah.
You could hit the head, which appears once. You could hit the body, which appears once. You hit the legs, which appear twice, and you could hit weapons, which appear once.
No, 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 no,
And
no,
that
no. It's 6 different locations.
all I know.
It's
No, no,
special.
no. 2 different legs, and the last one, the 6th side of the die, is the special.
Ah, okay.
Now, until recently, the special wasn't anything other than a weird way of saying body. Now we have War Master Titans. Special actually, it's a thing. If I remember correctly, that's the little shoulder, armpit, whatever you want to call it, mounted weapons, right? That's the special.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, special's
Which
actually the missile on the top.
oh,
Specials are
is
actually the
that the
missile.
special?
Yes, it's the
Oh,
big
okay.
limited missiles on the top.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's the special location.
Oh yeah.
I figure if they ever, reach back to the old days of Epic and bring back more options, such as the devotional bell, that might be a special location thing, for example.
I remember that.
You got corrupted
Devotional
titans, it might
bell.
see a return.
Yeah. Devotional bell was a corrupted Titan ability where they would ring the bell. Think of a Skaven. It was a
Okay.
Skaven bell. It's the easiest way
Okay.
to explain it. It was literally a Skaven bell.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah, and with the trader stuff now, with the corrupted titans, actually you end up having there's one upgrade you give a titan that puts basically a Melta flamer inside the head of the titan, which means that if you hit the head location, you also disable the weapon, which is separate from your weapons
That's the
line.
plague
It's
spit,
it's
right?
weird.
That's the plague
Yeah,
spit, right?
yeah, I
Oh
think
my
that's
god.
the one.
My
It's
friend
such a cool little
Josh,
option.
who plays Mutated Titans, takes that in every single one of his Titans. It's actually one of the big things he's known for at our store in Maplewood. It's his Spitter Titan. It's actually
Totally
a really
worth it.
cool thing. Oh, it's so
Totally
fun. It's
worth
so
it.
fun to see.
D3 attacks, strength 5, not that much, but then it rolls a D10 to do damage because it's got the
Yeah.
fusion rule. It's a neat little trick to have up your sleeve. So yeah, those are the weird dice involved in the combat phase. I guess we should probably talk about shields, when you get them, when you don't, what happens when they go out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Agreed.
All right. So every Titan has a little status track for their shields. So far, they all start at a 3-up. As they take a couple hits, they go to a 4-up until eventually they collapse entirely. Sometimes have longer tracks than others. The War Masters it's disgustingly long.
Yeah.
I spent an entire game shooting at the thing. I barely got it to a 4-up, and then it healed all the way back to full. It was
Yeah, I
infuriating.
warped it. I warped it.
Ugh. Disgusting. Um, Others, like the Warhound, they fail a single save, all of a sudden they're at a 4-up. They've got 2 4-up saves, and the shields are gone. So your shield save is a dynamic value. You check it when you get attacked with a weapon, and you keep that save value through that weapon attack. After resolving all the weapon's effects, all the failed saves against the weapon. At that point, you move your shield status tracker. If the shields are reduced to nothing, then the next weapon that attacks you just skips the shields, hits you in the body. If you still have a shield or 2 left, then the next weapon that attacks hits your shields. So in some cases, you're like, oh, wait, what if I shoot a Mega Bolter and I roll 4 6s? I got, 10, 4 6s and another hit. Yeah, I had 9 hits on the target, and they fail 4 saves, only had 1 shield left. Perhaps other hits. They go away. You could think of it as basically the shield kind of bursts out, and the rest of the salvo is kind of lost in that energy diffusion. But the next weapon, because it happens in sequence, gets to attack the weapon. Attack the Titan wherever it wants. Which kind of leads to certain strategies with the order you attack with certain weapons. If you're attacking a Titan and it has shields up, you'll start with weapons that have a high dice value, because more opportunities to remove shields. On the flip side, if you have a Titan with no shields, you start with the high strength weapons, ideally the blast type ones, to do wholesale damage. Critically damage some location, get it so that it's easier to damage, because essentially you're blowing armor plates off with your direct and devastating hits. So that you could then follow up with your high dice value weapons, targeting a location with a 2-hit penalty, and finishing off Titans. Am I missing some step in there? I pretty
No,
much cover it.
I think that's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that shields. And then I don't
Knights.
remember if we mentioned it during
Knights are
repair
weird.
phase, but one of the options in the repair phase on the 6 is you can reignite your shield. So once they're down unless you roll a 6 in that repair phase, and then it's 4-ups to it's 5-ups to get shield levels back,
Additional shield. Yep.
right? Additional shields
Yep.
after.
6 to reignite, 5 to boost the level.
Yep.
Knights work weird. They do their own thing.
Because
So
they're
the
ion
knights
shields instead of void shields.
the knights have a table for their ion shields where you compare the number of knights you have alive in the unit to the strength of the weapon attacking you. And when you cross-reference those two numbers, it gives you a save value. Knights are really weird because some knights have a built-in rule that reduces the strength of incoming attacks. I think there's a stratagem that reduces strength. There's a weird banner you could take that reduces the strength of blasts. Like, there's all kinds of weird little modifiers knights do on the strength. But you take that final strength value, compared to the number of knights, gives you a save. You roll your save. If you have a lancer in your unit, because you're running Cerastus, because Cerastus are amazing, you add 1 to that number. But yeah, they save. If they don't save, for each die they don't save against, that becomes a hit against the knight itself. Then you roll that die with that hit at the weapon strength, whatever modifiers, add a d6 or a d10 if it's a fusion weapon, and you roll against the knight's armor value. 1 damage for a direct, 2 for a devastating, and for a critical, you do 2 points of damage. If it kills a knight, you pick up that knight, reset the track, and then you kill a knight at the end of that. So basically, after a critical hit, at least 1 knight is dead, maybe 2 if it's the end of the track already. In practice, it's very easy to show. It's hard to explain verbally, though, the way crits work with knights.
The big thing is a crit is like a devastating, except you also then auto lose a knight. It is just done at the end. So then you're just
Yes.
you know that you're going to be one shorter, and depending on the strength of your weapon. So very good weapons, knights won't get saves against them, even if there's a whole bunch. Like if you have like a Bellicosa cannon or something like that, you're not getting a save. So that's why, especially in this game, if someone's running, say, an all-knight army, or just if someone's using a lot of knights, that's why having terrain and having that discussion is important. Because if you're running a knight army and I bring a couple Bellicosas, if I see you, you're just losing squads. Assuming I
Or
hit and
Quake
doesn't
Cannon.
scatter to the wind.
Or my personal favorite, a Quake Cannon, which just shuts down Knight squads
Yes.
immediately.
So rude.
Always. There are other. I should point out there are other weapon. I mean, we mentioned scatter, we mentioned fusion, which is adding the D10 to the armor roll, but there are a bunch of other weapon rolls too. I mean, for example, the Vulcan Mega Bolter I had before has the rapid trait. So any sixes you roll on the hit, right, unmodified sixes, I should point out for those 40K players, any unmodified sixes proc an extra hit, because the idea is such a rapid fire weapon. You have the Volkite, which just came out with Shield Breaker, which me and Steve were having a very lengthy discussion on what was better, a Vulcan Mega Bolter or a Volkite. And the idea was that maybe both should be, the Volkite should go up in points, but the Volkite should go down in points so they're equal. Because they do kind of the same thing. The Vulcan Mega Bolter is less strength, more shots, but with the possibility of spiking those shots into the shield.
I
But the
spiked so hard
Volkite,
this weekend.
yes, exactly. But the Volkite is a guaranteed, if you hit with one, you're getting an extra 2 shield hits no matter what. And it's higher strength. So I'm not going to do the math. I know Dave's the math teacher here, and he's probably salivating at this.
I would have to. No, to actually
On
crunch the numbers, I'd
average,
have
you
to
get
have them in
5
front
Mega
of me.
Bolter hits.
I don't have all the numbers in front of me. The big thing, and I've seen
With
it done.
no modifiers, it's 5 hits on average.
I'm not a big fan of the Volkite. I don't.
It's
think
not
it's
worth
useful.
it. It's cool, and for that reason alone, I'll take it because it's a Volkite. It's dope. But gameplay-wise, the Bolter is superior.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's got the same range, no penalty at long, and a bonus at short. It rolls more dice, so it's more opportunities to hit in the first place. And it's half the cost. Bolters are the better option, but Volkites are so much cooler. You should just go with the Volkite if you can. But they're also Forge World, so that is a bit of a barrier for a lot of people too.
What else? I feel like we've missed. Oh, Maximal Fire. This is for your plasmas. And again, this is very close to 40K, where you can choose to overpower your plasma. But any ones you roll automatically gain you a track of heat. You have Indirect Fire, which
Barrage, yes.
it's
Barrage
just
is fun.
indirect.
So it lets you fire at things you can't see at a -2 penalty. But there's a nice little stratagem you could take called Forward Observers that lets you spot from elsewhere on the table. It's up a little marker that's your Forward Observer team. They're like, hey, yo, Titans, I see a thing over there. I'm like, ah, lit. Thanks, man. Bang. So you could end up shooting things out of sight for your Titan at absolutely no penalty.
You have Rending, which is old school Rending, actually. Funny enough, it is old school Rending.
6 to do damage means you do an extra D3 to the penetration roll.
Yes. Fusion we mentioned. I know we're. Oh, my favorite two. Jesus, how could I forget? Save the best for the last. The Quake Cannon. So you have Concussive and you have Quake. Concussive is probably my favorite rule of the game when it works. Anyone here? You want to go ahead, Steve? Explain Concussive.
So Concussive has 2 effects depending on what it hits. If it hits an unshielded Titan, it either rotates it or pushes it back. On roll a die on a 1 or 2, it spins to the left. A 3 to 4, it's knocked back D3 inches, and a 5 to 6, it spins to the right. Against Knights, I believe it's if it does damage.
No, just hits. Literally, if it just touches
has
you.
to hit.
Oh wow!
Just has to touch him.
You're up.
So it touches Knights. They automatically become shaken, which is basically, like a failed morale check, which has all the penalties. Having recently had Knights get shaken for an entire game, it's it
your own fault, by the way.
Out from their wings. It was my fault too.
Yeah, it was your own Titan that did it. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then it also has the ability to not only move the Titan, but it also concusses the Titan, which is halves the move, or not halves the move. Sorry, it
Quake roll, yes.
It reduces the movement. Essentially, it reduces the movement. it's just and the cool thing is like these weapons all have, of course, different points and everything, but you can pair them in ways because every weapon fires individually. And unless you're in split fire, they're all firing the same thing. But because every weapon fires individually, it's almost like, and it's going to sound weird, that each Titan is 3 squads or 2 squads in one. So, like,
right, that
if I have
does
a
sound weird.
Warlord, it's going to make sense when I explain it. So, when you have a Warlord, for example, and let's say I have a Warlord with APOC missile launchers, a Gatling gun, and a plasma, which is not my preferred loadout, but just bear with me. So, I have an APOC missile launcher in the front. That thing shoots 10 missiles, very low strength. The idea is it's supposed to be long range shots as you're marching up the board, plinking off shields, right? Then, let's say as I'm marching up, the Warlord gets lucky and plinked off a shield, right? The shield is gone. Now I have a plasma gun. This is a strength 8, or if I wanted to, strength 10 with Maximal Fire gun that I just shoot right into the Titan. And whatever it hits, it's going to hurt, right? And then you have the Gatling gun. So I've shot the missiles, I've shot the plasma. Now the Gatling gun. Gatling gun is like medium strength, but it has ordnance. Oh, that's another rule we forgot. Ordnance. Reroll 1s on the armor pen. So now I can select a certain body part that maybe I weakened a little bit and use the Gatling gun to just hammer that area, and I get to reroll 1s on the armor pen because 1s don't do anything. So this is how like that Titan just did 3 completely separate things by himself, right? And that's the kind of cool thing with Titanicus, that you can build a Titan with, if you want, a Volcano Cannon, a Quake Cannon, and missiles. The missiles plink at long range. The Volcano Cannon has a bajillion range. The Quake Cannon has a bajillion range. It sits in the back of the field, and it just lobs shots, and hopefully you hit. Or you can build... Someone did this on the Titanicus group, and he posted a bad report. I was like, the Gatling Warlord, which is 2 Gatlings on his shoulders, a Gatling on his arm, and then a Gatling on his arm.
Oh.
And if, dear God in heaven, if you have no shields in front of it and you are even slightly hurt, it will absolutely bifurcate you in the battlefield. Oh, it was such a great thing. I think it was somewhere on YouTube.
That will turn something to Swiss cheese.
Yes,
Absolutely.
immediately.
The strength
But
7, right? For the big one?
Strength
Big
7,
Gatling?
Strength 7
Yeah.
ordnance. Strength 7
Oh,
ordnance with 6
that's
shots.
nice.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
ridiculous.
nice.
But that's the thing. I just spoke about 2 completely different weapon sets on the same Titan, and that happens to do with everything. I mean, Steve ran a Warhound with double Flamestorm, right?
It's such a
I mean,
silly little build, but I love it. Because
but
what it
it's
does is
good.
it runs up the table, it presents an issue, and if you don't deal with that issue, then each flamer auto hits 3 times, so it strips a lot of shields. Or if I get close to you, I'm within 2 inches, I'm underneath the shields, right? I'm under that bubble.
Mhm.
So I'm hitting your body with decent strength hits. 3 hits to 1 location of strength 7, nothing to sneeze at. If it's it's a Warhound, so it might have flanked you. Sound strength 8 for hitting the side. I run a Ferox Maniple. If I'm within your scale in inches, I get a +1 to do damage. So effectively, I'm all the way up to strength 9 now. 10 if I get to the rear. 10 or 11 because I'm Gryphonicus, which means I'm cool. And if I'm attacking my chosen target that I'm in an honor duel with, it gets silly. And then to round it all off, at the very end, I can do a smash attack within 1 inch. It's got the melee trait, so I pick what I hit and I just finish off the Titan. It's hilarious. It's silly. It's stupid, but I love it. You only get to use that trick once or twice before they become priority targets.
Right. I think that
Yeah.
I think that
There's
covers
a
all.
little passage in one of the books
Yeah.
about how to arm a legio, right? You have to think on it on 3 levels. One of them we don't really care about. That's the legio as a whole. Skipping that, you have the Maniples armament. Are you going to specialize your Titans, or are they going to be Generalist Titans? And then you have the Titans themselves. So you can have a hyper-specific Titan like the Gatling Warlord Danman, where it's just Daka for days, but it rerolls the ones to do damage, so it can either really strip shields or really punch something that's been hurt. You can do a Generalist Titan, like one of the most efficient Reaver builds, I think, is probably a Gatling, a Melta, and probably a Mega Bolter up top. The Mega Bolter strips shields, the Melta does wholesale damage to something, and then the Gatling finishes it off. Both approaches are perfectly fine. It just depends on what you want your models to do on the board.
No, agreed. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
it's something
Dave, yeah.
definitely to consider exactly what you want to do with that. And I think we're gonna, when we probably in the future when we discuss either particular mana pulls or maybe when we discuss some other more particular legions, going through a little bit of some of that weapon choice, or even just one day discussing weapons in more detail. But the big thing is when you're playing, assume I think you have to assume to at least some extent that you're going to be, unless your opponent's bringing knights. Otherwise, okay, there's going to be titans. If you can't get through the shields, if you don't have enough shots for that, you can't win. And if you can't actually put damage down on someone, you're not going to win. I know at least when I run, say, Warhounds, I always specialize because one bolter and one of something heavy, he's probably not getting through it himself, and oftentimes he may be one of the ones who shoots first or anything like that. So the smaller ones, I find, at least I try to specialize. As you get bigger, then I usually branch them out more, because I might need them to be able to finish off shields or be able to try and actually punch through the last bit of damage you need on a Titan. I don't know. Actually, I don't think I have enough of the No, I might actually have enough of the Gatling blaster. That does sound
Do a
funny.
quadruple Gatling.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would be good. What's
So
the range on those?
24 oldie, but it
24?
was a
Or-
trade. Wait. He played it with my favorite stratagem, warp displacement. And then when someone knocked, it's danger close, right? So obviously the warlord's going to be obviously targeted, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So warp displacement. When they knocked down his shields, he played a stratagem that I used against Steve, which was ether.
Dramatic Conduit?
Ether, I think it was Ether Conduit, right? And essentially it's, hold on, my shields went down, immediate repair roll. But you have to roll a D10. And on a 1, or on a 2, you take body hits, right? And on a 1, you just roll on the catastrophic table with a D10.
You just die.
Well,
Just immediately die.
Oh, wait,
That's
catastrophic is
table.
immediately. Oh, yeah, you just die on a 1.
Death.
Basically, the idea is you just let a demon into the warp engine in hopes that it actually does something.
1 in 10, you're just gone.
Gone. So he was surrounded by warhounds who weren't able to get close enough to get in the void shield, but just far enough and he just immediately reignited the shields. And then he just turned around and goes, "Oh, a split fire. I'm going to kill those 2 warhounds." And he put 2 in one and 2 in the other. It makes an orc person happy at the end of the day. Oh, man.
That's a project I might have to take up on.
You're going to do that.
I'm waiting for when
You're
they
an
actually
Eldar
decide
player.
to do it. Yeah.
Oh, I should point out, by the way, we're talking about all guns. The combat phase also includes melee. So, for example,
Yes.
melee weapons are within 2 inch. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's any 3 inch.
It
Oh no,
depends on the weapons.
the War Master's 3 inch though. I think, right?
Yes. Yeah. So smash
What is
attacks. Every Titan do smash attacks. It's a 1 inch range melee weapon. Reavers get chain fists and power fists. I think they're both 2 inches.
Yeah, they're both 2 inches.
I think the Warlord's also got 2 inches on its claw, and then the the War Master, the Iconoclast version.
Yeah.
Technically, all of its arms are melee weapons, but the way they set it up, at some ranges you get the melee rule, and at some ranges you don't. But on the Desecrator Chainsword, it's melee all the way out to 4 inches, which is beyond the typical melee range, which means you could actually be using your ballistic skill instead of your weapon skill to attack with it.
But I'm going to point out real quick, people are going to be like, "Oh, but that'll just hit the void shields." No,
bypass.
Because the Iconoclast, all the weapons bypass. So if I'm at 4 inches from you and you're like, "Oh, thank God, the void shield just protects me," the chainsword's the size of the goddamn statue of. No, it's not statue, but it's what the Iconoclast is. What 12 stories, right?
Yep.
And the chainsword is about 75% of the model. So that's an 8-story chainsword. I don't know what void shield you think you're going to have against that, but
slow knife penetrates.
Oh,
so a few things just to make sure. The Warlord, its close combat is 2 inches. Wait, and so the Iconoclast just has a rule that it just doesn't care about.
Yes, it's bypass. The Iconoclast, it's called it's called bypass, and it's literally like it doesn't care about void shields.
Okay, so that weapon has bypass.
Yes, the weapon has bypass. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah.
And obviously only he can take the weapon. Okay. I don't own one of those yet because they're super expensive.
Yes. Well, I have the War Master. I don't have the Iconic. I have the I think the War Master is just called the War Master, actually.
The unnamed War Master.
Yeah, I think it's the War Master, but the Iconoclast War Master version I do not own. But after playing the game against Steve and I saw how quick the War Master could move, I mean, he still got up halfway up the board by turn, 1 or 2?
Yeah, that
Imagine
was
him with, like,
without,
warp
stratagem nonsense.
displacement or any of my normal shenanigans that I could take. He was a. I mean, we'll talk about the game later, but he was a monster. He was an absolute monster. But yeah, no. So just the combat phase does include melee. It's all
Yes.
bundled. It's basically the weapon ranges is what matters.
Yeah,
That's
it's like you said, it's where you just attack.
yeah,
Whatever your Titan's armed with, if it has a
exactly.
target, can reach it, can get to it, then it gets to fight with that thing.
Yep. And
And Steve mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
as mentioned in a previous episode too, don't forget that it's not weapon skill, ballistic skill for the type of weapon. It's based on how far you are from the target.
Yeah.
Within 2
Yeah.
inches, it's weapon skill, no matter what you're attacking with. Beyond 2 inches, it's ballistic skill, no matter what you're attacking. And the only thing that has minimum ranges are carapace trait weapons, which has a minimum range of the Titans, scale in inches, unless it's fighting something equally big or bigger.
I don't know. This isn't. I mean, technically, it's not part of the combat phase because it could happen during the movement phase, during a stratagem. I should point out that this is also the phase where Titans normally die. So, when Titans
Oh, you
die,
have no idea.
yeah,
I've
when
killed
Titans,
Titans in every single phase.
yeah, exactly.
I've killed them in the
It's so
command phase, the movement phase, the repair phase, the combat phase, and the end phase. I did all 5 phases, 1 engine kill this weekend. It was stupid.
So I should point out that when Titans die, it can range anything from literally it's a D10 roll, and it gets modified by how hot you are, of course. But it can be anything from a 1, which is literally you stand there. It could be it stumbles and falls. And remember, if Titans hit something, it can hurt. So it could stumble and fall into your own Titans and hurt you. It could the Titan can get mad at its death and just start firing wildly in a random direction. You could hit an ammo storage and the Titan just goes up in a fireball. And then my favorite result, which I decided to roll not once, not twice, but 4 times unmodified
Absolutely
this
love it.
weekend. 4 10s for all 4 of my Warhounds, which is essentially they weren't even hot, Dave. I swear to God. It was literally unmodified 10s. And I wish I was joking, but Steve was there as a witness. But a 10
Oh my
result is
God.
essentially your Titan is a miniature nuclear bomb, and it explodes to the point where it actually avoids shields. It actually ignores all shield saves. It just it's
Entire
bad.
tables are radiated now.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, and then after the combat phase, because that's it for the combat phase, right? I literally can't think of anything else.
No, that's the combat phase.
Because after the combat, after the combat phase, you have the cleanup phase,
Mhm.
The
which
end
is
phase,
basically it's the end phase. It's kind of the
Yeah.
easiest, but things can still happen. Funny enough, so the idea of the end phase is any crits that have been applied to your Titan now get applied.
Yep, most of the
So
criticals at least, yeah.
most of the critical apologies. So
Yeah.
like your Titan get hotter because there's a reactor leak. Maybe your legs are hurt, so your Titan wobbles to the side. And like as Steve said, your Titan can die in this phase. So this happened to you, right? Because your Titan was in the
I
red.
did it to you, and I almost did it to myself in 2 different ways.
Oh yeah, because
So
the
we were
Titan was
playing
in.
with open war cards, and for one of the table effects we had was you're in the middle of a war zone. So in the end phase every round on a 2-up, we were able to hit a Titan with D6 strength 8 hits. And I think I killed a Warhound with that. So that's one way to kill a Titan in the end phase. The other one is by getting a little too close to the sun. Basically, if you're at the end of your reactor track and you are forced to take on additional heat on your Titan, for example, from a reactor leak, each time you should move the little tracker, but you don't have space to, you immediately suffer a strength 9 hit to your body.
Mhm.
At that point, you have some modifiers stacked on that usually. So really, I was taking strength 12 hits to my body.
Yeah.
I got insanely lucky, and I managed to roll. I called it too. Like, I'm gonna roll double ones now because I changed out my dice. I was rolling 6s all day, and I'm like, all right, these dice are a little too hot. I'm gonna change them out. And they're like, hey, watch this. I'm gonna roll double ones now. My Titan's gonna live. Boom, double ones. Titan live.
Mhm.
It was bad. But yeah, the next turn, slightly less lucky. Titan dies, and it rolls on the table, dies as normal, with a +3 modifier for being in the red. It was a game. Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
you could kill Titans every phase. Band phase, you have the stratagems. Movement phase, you got first fire. Repair phase, you have your Titans too hot, you take damage, you blow yourself up. Combat phase, well, straightforward. And like I said, end phase, just table effects and damage.
Yeah, and that overall would essentially end a turn or end a round, I should say. You go on
Yep.
to the next round and you keep playing until we talked before about when you try to end and when you start rolling for it and all of that. But that rather long-winded when it's all said and done. But going through it in a good amount of detail, that gets us through actually essentially how you play the game. I think we're probably good with that part there. I don't think
Yeah,
we at this
that's
moment want to go through more detail on any of those unless we want to dedicate time separately for them
No,
later.
yeah, but no, that's pretty much the game. It seems
finally,
complicated.
God.
I know. I know we've spent
I
two
don't think it's
episodes
super
on it. It
complicated.
seems complicated. It's really not. And again, it's the same with any game. Once you get enough games in your system, it really. I mean, me and Steve played a 2,000 point game, and it took us
An hour and a half,
an hour and a half.
including some
Not even.
drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, we drank. We including setup. Yeah, it took us an hour and a half. And the normal game is 1750. That's because we just knew what we were doing. We knew what our strategy was. We had our objectives, and we just went at it.
And half a dance points was a single model.
That's a good point.
No more than that.
That always speeds things up.
It's 11. It was 1
Turn one,
190.
lost a model, so things sped up
Yeah,
better.
one
Actually, that's a
one
really good game.
190. Oh
When you
man,
get
that was
bigger
such a
games, things get killed fast, so then all of a sudden that
yeah,
big game becomes a small game.
yeah.
Wait, were you running? Was it a War Master or an Iconoclast you were running?
No, it was a War Master with
Last
4
one.
Warhounds.
Okay.
It was a War Master and 4 Warhounds.
Okay, that's why you
Super
got your
cow.
more points. I'll say the Iconoclast is a
Super
little
call.
cheaper
Yeah.
than that.
No, because you can also at 1750 you can run a War Master and then 3 Warhounds with Vulcan Mega
Rounds?
Bolters. Yeah, 3 Bolter Hounds at 1750. And I think you could still put plasma on the plasma guns on the.
Oh my
Hold on,
god, those plasmas
200.
are
Hold
so
on.
effective.
Warhounds are what 200,
Yep,
and then
200
it's
minimum.
1110. So 1110 plus 20 plus 20 is 1150. Yeah, so you can run a War Master with dual plasma guns, and triple Warhounds with
Bolters.
Vulcan Mega Bolters. Yeah, that's a 1750 list.
Damn.
Not a great one, but it's a 1751. But yeah, I mean that's the game. And the cool thing I know we mentioned in what we should talk about, in my opinion, is because we there should be a dedicated podcast. We will dedicate a podcast to talking about every legion of traitors and
It's going to be more
loyalists.
than one. So the plan is we
Yes,
are going to go through the trader book, go through that. But to do that, it's probably going to be one where we just go through the different legios. Probably then one where we maybe discuss some other stuff, stratagems and all. Like it's
yeah.
going to be a few to actually do it. It's going to be a few.
But we should. I feel like we should talk about at least what legios we play, because that way some people can understand at least the varied differences that exist within the game. Because again, people always the main. I remember always the beginning. The main criticism was, it's just Titans Imperium versus Imperium. Who cares? But it's not that. It's a lot more. But yeah. Anyway, let's. Who wants to start? Who wants to start?
I guess I'll start since I touched on it earlier. So I play Legio Gryphonicus. I mean, they're not really Legio Gryphonicus, but their rules mesh with my playstyle nicely, so it's Legio Gryphonicus. But custom paint schemes still a thing. Even though there are 32 canonical Legios to choose from, you could still come up with your own scheme and, figure something out or steal rules from elsewhere. So yeah, I play Legio Gryphonicus. Their thing is that they have this kind of knightly martial pride to them. At the start of the game, after deployment, but before first turn, each of my Gryphonicus Titans could choose an enemy Titan and claim it as their mark. And until another Legio Gryphonicus Titan attacks that target Titan, I get to re-roll ones to hit. I get a bonus +1 to inflict damage. It's a little thing, but over the course of a game, oh my god, it helps so much. Rerolls are not common in Titanicus, so even if it's just one die a turn, that adds up.
Yeah.
The Warlord traits are also really nice. More the ones that I usually default to. takes that reroll ones effect, and it lets my Princeps reroll ones against anything that's within 8 inches. That one's called Master Duelist. Another one they have is Reckless Maverick, which lets them once per game activate a second time in a given phase. So I could double move, I could double shoot, which
Oh,
means that you can move one of these Titans 27 inches in a single turn
did you use that
between a
during our game?
full stride order. I did not. I just moved a lot.
Oh, okay, because that seems
Yeah,
pretty damn good.
it is damn good.
Yeah, what the hell?
You advance your reactor 3 times afterwards, but yeah,
Oh,
people love that trait.
I'm sorry, how
A
many? 3?
3 time. A Reaver could handle it.
Uh,
It'll put it at the end of yellow, I think, but it could handle it. Just
okay.
don't push anything else. And then the last one is Hunter Without Equal. What that one does is it lets you reroll all misses against your chosen mark. So
That's
those are
nice.
the things you don't pay point. Oh, and the last major component of Gryphonicus, Reaver Titans. They are the legio for anyone that likes Reaver Titans because they could take any Warlord or Warhound component, mandatory or optional, in a maniple, and say, you know what? I want a Reaver in that slot. I have to be careful. As we mentioned before, maniple rules don't apply to all Titans equally. Some of them specifically call out a Titan class, and if it says Warhounds in the maniple gain this rule, and I put in a Reaver, it's not going to gain that rule. But if it's something more general, like all Titans in this maniple get to do X, Y, Z, then they get to enjoy the rules. I know specifically for the Venator maniple, the way it works is if you swap out a Reaver for a Warhound and a Warhound pops shields, your Reaver gets to attack. One of the Reavers in a maniple can make a free attack at that instant. Yeah, I love that rule because I love my Reaver Titans. They fast, they tough, they punch things. They're great. And then you
Sounds
get
good.
3 different Legio specific war gear options.
3.
3,
Nice.
yes.
Not
So
bad.
Warhounds can Warhounds let you pre-measure ranges to anything that's within 12 inches of a Warhound for all of the Gryphonicus Titans for only 10 points, which is cheaper than the Universal War Gear that gives a Titan the pre-measuring per weapon. So that's a cool little thing you can have. There's Gravitas Plating, which basically is up armoring your Reavers. I bought the files for some Lucius upgrades for Reaver paneling, so I might make that my little Gravitas boy. But what that one does is it basically boosts your armor values on the bodies and the legs, but you reduce your speed. Basically, you get the Warlord or Warbringer, one of those two. You get their movement profile, but you get the better armor, which is nice. Or you could give your Reaver. This is my favorite. I put it on every. It's like hot sauce. It's like hot sauce. It goes on everything.
Frank's hot dog.
The motive Sub Reactors. What this does is your Reaver Titan always gets to use its boosted speed value and its boosted turn. I forgot that. I could also use my boosted turn value, making the Reavers always move 9 inches with 3 turns, basically making them giant warhounds that can't boost. The downside is if you take a critical hit to your legs, there's a chance you take a little bit of heat on your reactor. But a Reaver can handle a little bit of heat, and it gets to go fast. I love it. It's my absolute favorite upgrade. And for that reason, I am very negligent and don't look at other Legios nearly as much as I should and learn their rules because I'm so obsessed with my stupid fast Reaver Titans.
I don't see a problem with this.
You get quite a bit of things actually. You get a good amount of just like inbuilt rules without having to actually buy the upgrades.
Yep. And the upgrades are expensive. It's 25 to go fast, but it's so worth it.
I like it. Dave, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. All right, so I'll go through mine. So I play Legio Vulpa, the Death Stalkers. To a large extent, I would say, at least if you read through their fluff, and when we do when we go through the different Legios, we'll discuss a little bit of their fluff and all what they say. I would definitely say they're at 100% absolutely on the bad guy side, and overall they actually are very bad guys. They're
the first demonic titans. They're the first demonic titans.
Yes.
Them
Oh
and
yeah. Well,
Mortis.
they got in bad with I think it's Legio Solara at one point because they wanted to give terms to a city for surrender, and Volp was like, no, and they just burned the city down and killed everyone inside of it.
It's great.
They are a close combat. primarily. And their history gives them a little bit of a reason why. It's essentially one of the worlds they were on. Their opponent outclassed them so greatly in weapons, but from long range. So they adapted to be able to actually fight up close and personal, where they were no longer at that disadvantage. For what we get, we only get one trait, honor and blood. So if you're within 5 inches of an enemy Titan, it used to be different, but now it's within 5 inches. Your weapon skill goes up by 1 to a maximum of 2 up, and your ballistic skill will go down by 1 to a minimum of 6 up. So when you're at further range, doesn't really make a difference, but essentially when you're getting close to melee, it used to essentially be melee range. Now with 5 inches does mean that there's a chance that you are still firing ballistic weapons and your ballistic skill is worse. So essentially stay outside of 5. Or if you're using Ferox Maniple, then when you're within your scale, you can switch, you can choose which. But if you're trying to melee someone, your melee weapon skill goes up by 1. That's big because on these Titans, their ballistic skills are always better than their melee. Depending on the Titan, a Warlord is a 3 up in ballistic, but a 5 up in melee. This gives him an extra +1. Now he's a 4 up. If it's a melee weapon, all melee weapons, correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen one that doesn't. All melee weapons come with at least a +1. Some are +2s to hit. So you are getting to those very good numbers to hit with those. But you do have to be careful because they said at 5 inches, if you're outside of melee range and you're firing weapons, well, now your ballistic skill is worse. So for things we can get, we do have a stratagem. Only costs 1 point. No pity for the vanquished. If a Titan kills, so if one of your Titans kills enemy Titan, so they do roll on the catastrophic damage table, like they're not necessarily removed because there's some results that keep you there, but essentially they are destroyed. That Titan can attack again someone within 12 inches. So you can just attack someone else if you have a valid target. War gear wise, 2 pieces. The first one is actually both of them are new. They got rid. So we used to have a piece of war gear, plasma gargoyles, which was when we vented our heat. I want to say it was 25 points, maybe it was 15. But when you vented the heat, you could use it as a weapon to other things around you within like an inch or 2 inches. It was terrible. You would never take it.
I agree.
The damage level didn't get high enough to actually hurt anyone. It didn't differentiate friend or foe. So if you had, say, some of your own knights around you, you wouldn't want to use it because I don't think it was a choice. If you had it when you vented, you did this. So it was a waste. They're better now. What we have now is definitely a lot better, and it feeds more into that idea of wanting to get up close. So the first one is Shikarian Conduits. You had to be scale 7 or higher, so you can't use it on the little one. When you take it, though, so it's 20 points. When you take it, your boosted speed gains 2 inches, and you increase the boosted movement characteristic by 1. So that's essentially the number of turns that you can do. So you're boosted, you get to move 2 more inches, you get to make an additional turn. When you use it, though, if you choose to, so essentially when you declare power to locomotives or powers to stabilizers, so when you're using one of those boosted characteristics or potentially both. So if you actually use it, for the rest of the round, any weapons that are not melee weapons lose a die, and your ballistic skill goes down by 2. So you shoot with less dice, and you are much less accurate. You put that on something that has melee weapons that wants to get up close and personal, and then you can boost yourself so you can get a lot further range. Which, looking at it, if maybe now there's some options. Yeah, a Reaver. That's the one spot I think absolutely. Because that's something I take in melee. If I was going to take a Warlord melee or with a melee weapon, I think I'd want that on it because their boosted is still pretty slow. You have warp jump and all, but you still need to get up close. The other option we have is disruption emitters. 35 points. Any Titan can take this. 35 points. So very expensive. However, if you have the upgrade, you add 2 to the strength value of any melee weapon you have, and your scale counts as 2 higher when you're making smash attacks. So the base on a power fist for a Reaver, I want to say, is 8. The chain fist is 9. So you're going to 10 or 11 with those weapons now.
The other way around. It's 8 on the fist, 8 on the chain, and 9 on the power fist.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, but the chain gets more dice to counter that, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 dice on the chain fist, strength 8, 2 on the power fist, strength.
Yeah, I knew it was the 3 attacks of strength 8 or 2 attacks of strength 9. Forget which ones. But now upping that strength, and like I said, and your scale goes up as well. So when you're doing a smash attack or anything like that, now you're getting some pretty high scales. Obviously, you wouldn't take this on anything small, but this is also the sort of game I find where uh, tell me if you guys find it differently. But for me, I don't hit like the point total unless I'm usually taking knights or something, or if I'm like really trying to. Often I find I have spare points because the Titans have a large chunk that they are. The weapons that you want have their chunks. It's not always the biggest concern of trying to finagle right to the points value. I find with this sometimes you are 30, 40, or 50 points off maybe for what you want, or maybe a little bit lower. So maybe rather than taking a few random Questoris Knights, well, yeah, this stuff is expensive, but maybe I put this on some of my bigger models that takes the place, and now they're that much more effective.
Oh, I agree. I think I mentioned this at the start of the last episode. Like, the balancing point of Titanicus, it's about like the number of Titans you bring more so than like the points cost of the weapons.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the 35 points it's a big chunk, but it's usually not gonna cost you models.
No, it
Unless you're
costs you
doing
maybe knights.
three, unless you're doing like 4 of them, but then that's too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I find once I've built my list, what changes for me, or when I put the basis of my list together, here's the things I absolutely want. Here's some stuff I'm trying to fit in, and I'm trying to finagle the last of, say, weapons options or anything like that. What it really boils down to is I say, do I want to bring any sort of knights? Which ones might fit? And does that necessitate any particular weapon loadout? Like, okay, maybe my Warhound has to take the Vulcan Mega Bolters because they're the cheapest option it has. And doing that lets me fit in this Uniquestoris or Cerastus or whatever it may be. Your war gear, if you have it, the points essentially now become, well, do you maybe want this particular weapon, or do you want that war gear on that? Or do you want that unit of knights or something? It's usually not the distinction of you're missing out a whole nother Titan. 35 points is never going to get you a Titan.
No.
But that is, and then we have everyone has their personality traits, so they have essentially warlord traits. You always have those you can take from, or there's the one in the main rule book as well. Does anywhere do you got? So I know Steve, you at least play with a lot more people. Does anyone actually roll for them, or you guys just pick them?
We always pick them. We
Yeah.
always pick 'em.
Garbage if you roll for it. I'll say right now. I mean, technically it's a house rule if you do it that way. Pick them. If you roll for them, your opponent could get the best one against you, and you roll the one that's like, oh, like one of ours is cruel. When making an attack against a unit of scale 5 or lower, increase the strength of the hits by 2. And then I roll that, and then you don't have any warhounds or anything smaller, so then it just doesn't come into play. So,
That's
no,
literally knights only.
Yeah.
At this point.
Because
Warhounds are scale
Warhounds
6.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's knights only. Yeah, so if they're not running any knights, then it's useless to you.
That'd be hilarious though against a knight household. Like, hey, guess what? I'm now an extra 20 strength, and all of a sudden my mega bolter is useful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other
everything's
than
cutting
that,
through them
actually,
then.
even then, mega bolters are still not great against knights. There's
No,
still
'cause strength
saving on
6.
2s or 3s.
Yes, it's still strength 6. It's still strength 6.
Depends on a unit of what.
It
Like, don't
counters
throw
their
them at Cerastus, but Castorus or something
Their
like that.
silliness.
Yeah, you'll carve through those well enough. But you go to a strength 7 weapon, now you're at 9, and now a lot of them are, if they're getting a save, it's pretty bad again, unless you have a lot of bonuses. Some of them do.
Yeah, that is true. So that's the one answer. That's the one use case.
Yeah. All
It's
right,
a
Dan.
pretty-
Why
I mean-
don't you go through what you do?
So I play Trader, and I'm starting Legio. So I'll start with the Trader first. They're the ones I started with and play the most games with. So I play Legio Furean, or Tigerize is actually what they're known as, and they are another one that was super Trader, like another one of those that there were no question as to their loyalty during the heresy. They're very interesting. So they have a little bit of everything. They have a special rule. So like with Legios, they usually have like a bunch of special rules, or maybe they'll have a bunch of war gear, or they'll have a bunch of stratagems. Ours kind of has all 3, like one of each. So first of all, our Legion special rule. Our Legio special, we have 2 of them, and they're very so the first one is Machine Rage. And essentially, so I know we talked about the Reactor Dice, and the idea of the Reactor Dice is whenever that 1 in 6 chance happens where you roll the Reactor Dice and you take a command, you have to take a command check. If you fail it, you don't get to choose what your Titan does. It's a table. Well, our Titans are a little bit more bestial, and we have to take a command check not just on the Reactor die, but on the blank dice as well. So we have a 1 in 3 chance to take that command check. which gives us more of a chance to fail. The good news is with Tiger Eyes that they can choose the result from the table, which is a massive, massive deal. So, normally the table is random. Sometimes you move forward, sometimes you make a repair roll, sometimes you could fire a weapon. But with the Legio Tiger Eyes, if I somehow roll a blank, let's say, I make a command check, I fail said command check, I can choose what I want to do. So sometimes it's in my benefit to try to get that blank or get that risk that one heat or risk that blank heat to try to fail the command check, because then I could choose maybe to repair my Titan for free. Or maybe I can move him forward, which will make him get into cover. Or maybe I know he'll die, have him get a free weapon shot. So that's one of their kind of cool little twisty things that they can do. It works and it doesn't work. This one's more of the random one. The other thing they do, and this is a really fun one, in turn one.
Sure.
No, this is well, because it's more of, I like to call this the samurai stance. So in turn one, for 2 phases, the movement phase and the combat phase, you can elect to do absolutely nothing with your Titan. Don't move, don't shoot, don't turn, don't look. He activates and he sits there. Now you might be saying, why the hell would you do that turn one? For every phase you do this with the individual Titan, you gain a reroll dice for anything. So let's say on turn one, my Warlord doesn't move, doesn't act, he activates and doesn't do a damn thing. And in the shooting phase, he doesn't do a damn thing. Now for the rest of the game, I have 2 dice that I can use once, 1 die or 2 die, on any reroll I want in the entire game. I can reroll a scatter die, I can reroll a command die, I can reroll a hit die, I can reroll an armor pen, I can reroll a location die. Any die in the game that is being used, I can reroll. And this is one of those things where it's like, it can be very powerful, it can do absolutely nothing. Because a Warlord sitting there for turn one doing absolutely nothing is not a great use of your Warlord.
Depends on the weapon
But
loadout.
I was gonna say, if you have a Warhound, right, move him up turn one, hide him behind something that he can't fire, activate him, he doesn't shoot. He just gained a reroll for later on in the game. So and as Steve said, rerolls are extremely rare. They don't happen pretty much at all in this game. So to gain 1 dice per Titan that does this, or even 2 dice per Titan that does this, is phenomenal. But you got to give up that turn one, which can hurt you. It doesn't have to hurt you. So it's one of those. What were you going to say, Dave? I kind of cut you off.
No. I was just saying, you mentioned a Warlord not doing anything in turn one can be very bad. I think it depends on the weapons you're running. If you're running closer range weapons and maybe they are either a bit too, or depending on the opponent, if you just let them come forward, I'm not getting shots off anyway. If I'm only moving 4 inches, maybe 6 if I push it, I might not be getting into range anyway. Okay. I'm not doing anything that first turn. I'm letting you pull into the position I want you in. And now I'll be able to guarantee that time when I really don't need that one miss. Because that's when you're going to miss.
Or command. I've usually used it for not Reactor Dice, command checks. Because those suck to fail. Those suck. But sometimes, like I said, I want to fail it. Sometimes I want, because I can choose on the chart what I can do. So it's really cool that is like its little thing. But yeah. Now that was just special rules. Those were its Legion rules. It only has 1 stratagem, and it's one of the strongest stratagems in the game. It's also one of the more expensive stratagems in the game. So again, because you only play with really 5 stratagems. So 3 stratagems is what 80% of your 60% of your. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking 25% because I was counting custodians before. So it's 60% of your entire strategy, but it's offensive surge. So in the combat phase, you choose a maniple. So it has to be in the maniple. So you can't choose the War Master to do this. As a slow tear trickles down my eye. Each Titan in that maniple. Yep. Yeah, 100%. Each Titan in that maniple may attack twice with one of its weapons, but you increase the reactor dice by 1. So you're reacted by 1 in addition to any other effects. So it's not as powerful as Steve mentioned, like the double activating Titan. It's less this Titan goes crazy. It's more this maniple goes crazy. And again, you attack. So for example, my Warhound, with dual bolters. Now it's attacking with 3 of those bolters for 1 heat, which is ridiculous. Or my Warlord can attack again with its plasma cannon, and it can be out of order. This is the cool thing about it. It's just twice attack with one of its weapons. So I can attack with my missiles, or sorry, I can attack. Let's say your shields are down. I can attack with my plasma, attack with my Gatling. Let's say you're really hurting an area, right? I attack with my missiles. Let's say they didn't do anything. Maybe I'll go back to my Gatling, fire that again. So it gives you that choice. The downside with this, besides the CP, and this goes, I think we talked about this like literally our first podcast, is when the hell you play this. This is one of those stratagems that if you play this at the wrong time, it does literally nothing. And this has happened to me a lot because it's the maniple gets to attack twice with one of its weapons. But if you play this where, Steve knows I'm going to play this during this turn, he hides, and I play it, or maybe he kills one of my Titans before they can do it, it hurts. Like it's a 3-point stratagem. So if it doesn't go off exactly when you need it, it hurts a lot. I think during our game, Steve, right? I'll use our game as an example. I had 2 Warhounds literally able to double fire on his Warhound squad, and then 2 Warhounds that were completely behind cover, couldn't see nothing.
Yep.
And it took me a good 10 minutes to figure out whether I want to play the stratagem or not, because I can play it and I know for a fact those Warhounds are going to hurt that Warhound squad, but I'm not using it to its maximum effectiveness because the other 2 Warhounds literally, they were 520 points of 2,000 points, a quarter of the army would not be able to use it. So it's one of those stratagems, and it's super powerful, but you got to know when to use it, how to use it, and I've gotten better with it.
Your list is built for it too.
Yes, if your list is
double maniple list, which would have the effectiveness of the strat.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with it's got to choose a maniple. So
I know that's what I'm saying. If you have a double maniple list, the stratagem is half as effective.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Oh, yes.
Half the army.
A maniple could often be just your whole army.
Yes.
There usually is your army is a single maniple, unless you want to go double maniple, which has its perks. You get a second Princeps trait if you do that.
True. But again, the offensive surge. Now their war gear did go up in points a little bit. It was 15, now it's 20. It's probably again one of the they have some of the best stuff, but it's expensive.
They absolutely have the best stuff, I think.
Yes. It's the hunting aspects. You hate it because it bifurcated your Reaver. The hunting aspects is essentially reduce the penalty to hit when firing at targets more than 12 inches away by 1 to a minimum of 0. So essentially, this is you can rack up negatives in the game. So like you're behind cover, -1, maybe -2. Maybe some weapons have a -1 to long range or -1 to close range. Essentially, if you are outside of 12 inches, you ignore one of the negative modifiers by 1. So let's say I'm shooting, again, during the game, we're shooting a Reaver that is, -1 behind cover. That would require it to be 4s. Maybe I want to target the body. That's a 5-6 right there to hit. But I'm outside of 12 inches. That brings me down to a 5 to hit, which doesn't seem like a lot.
That doubles it.
That doubles the amount of hits. Now, again, it's 20 points, so it does add up very quickly. And again, when you pair this with offensive surge, it becomes deadly, but you're only using this on 1 maniple. What I found was that, and this happened, I think, against Dave and also against Josh, if they get within 12 inches, this 20 points is completely useless. And I usually you stick these on Warlords or maybe Reavers, which are usually within knife fighting range anyway in the middle of the game, unless you stay back. So what I found usually was putting Hunter Auspexes on either my brawling Warlords or maybe the Warlords that stand back, but I never put Hunting Auspex on like a Warhound at all, ever, or very rarely on a Reaver. I usually put these on fire support models that I use to hang back and brawl or hang back and fire from far away. But yeah, someone within 12 inches, it doesn't do anything.
Does that also work for targeted attacks? So could you target?
Yes, everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
it's +1 to the
penalty
attack.
To hit.
Yeah.
It doesn't give. Yeah, it doesn't give you a +1 to hit. I should put. It doesn't give you a +1 to hit.
From when you have a penalty.
Targeting on 4s is nice.
Yes.
That's really
Yes,
nice.
It is. That's actually what I use it for. So my favorite little side note, one of my favorite Warlords to ever run, favorite combos, is a Plasma, Gatling, and a laser blaster. And people hate the laser blaster because it's 50 points and it's a -1 to hit at long range, which blows. I mean, 6 shots hitting on 4s is not great. Yeah, you could shield bane, but you're still hitting 50% of the time. I take it all of a sudden with Hunter Auspex relays. I'm hitting you on 3s at long range with shield bane. So it's a really, really, really good and then I could target you with the Gatling or Plasma. It's a really good thing. The problem I have with that Warlord is if you get within 12, which usually happens, then I'm like, oh well, I tried. But it's a learning game. You get better. I think I've gotten pretty good with kind of positioning and stuff. Our Titan of Legend, which I don't think we mentioned, by the way, we do have a Titan of Legend in the Legio. Not every Legio has a Titan of Legend. We do.
I don't
The
tell me
Titans of
that.
Legends are your named characters. Some suck. So actually, no. I think all of them have gotten good with the new books. Ibn Farouk did not change at all. He was good, and they kind of just kept him that way. Ibn Farouk is a Warhound. He gets Hunter Auspex for free, which seems like a kind of stupid thing to do, but Ibn Farouk always adds +2 to armor rolls against enemy Titan scales 10+. So it's a Warhound that basically, and I know you hate laser destructors, but you put laser destructors on Ibn Farouk, that's 4 strength 10 shots with Hunter Auspex.
Yeah, but strength 12 plasmas.
Yeah, but remember, you have to be 12 inches away. So plasmas are going to be still. Oh, they hit on 3s because of Hunter Auspex.
Yeah. I'd do 1 plasma, 1 turbo, maybe. Because then you could do the
Yeah,
plasma
no,
for
so
wholesale, and then
no one
convert it
uses
with
Ibn
turbo and
Farouk.
finish it off.
No one uses name Titans because they tend to be very expensive, but it is a cool thing.
Yeah. And it's hard to find the rules because they did
Yes.
1 print on the terminal, and they're not in the
I
books.
totally didn't buy 2 copies and are hoarding them. If anyone, you could reach out to me. I'll give it people for free. I don't care.
Yeah,
because I only need
there's
the
ways
Legio.
to find it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have Legio store. Yeah, and then our Legio special rules are Titan Stalker, or Princeps traits are Titan Stalker. They're pretty good. They're again, if you roll for it, it could suck. So we choose.
Don't roll for it.
It's just better.
Never.
Don't roll for it, never. So Titan Stalker, when targeting Titan that is within 8 inches. Again, that's the problem. Don't pay for Hunter Auspex if you're going to take Titan Stalker. Makes sense. But you can, if you're within 8 inches, you can add 1 to the armor rolls of any hits. But the target has to be a skill equal to or greater than its own. So the idea is, this is a Warhound or a Reaver hunting a larger Titan, getting up close. I played a list with
hilarious on Even.
Well, I played a list with
+3.
Oh my god, ew. And then give him Ferox +4. Casual strength 12 laser blasters. Sure, whatever. Laser destroyers. I actually put Titan Stalker in a double melee Reaver, and then I warp displaced him up the board, and I one punched Josh's Reaver through the core. It was great. Because I became strength. What is the power? The power fist is
strength 9 base. So
9.
Strength 10 with this.
I got a full 9-inch charge from the angle.
Oh,
so that was
+3 attacks.
+3. So it was 5 attacks,
total.
I think. 5 total. He was within 8 inches, obviously. So I became strength 9.
9
and it was just
10 to 11.
it was just to 11. Yeah, it was fucking. It was
oh my god.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was absolutely insane. I just literally was one punch man through a Reaver.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts. But you guys, again, that requires extremely. That requires the stars to align.
Yes.
My favorite, funny enough, is actually the Hermeru Savage, and I take this a lot on my Warlord, and I'll tell you why. So when the Princess Venure's Titan makes a smash attack, add 2 to the strength of the attack. The reason I take this on my Warlord is because sometimes the Warlord gets into close combat when I don't want it, and having your Warlord smash at strength, 12, right?
13, skill +1 for strength.
True. Was it skill
strength
+1 or 2?
It's skill
+1 for smash, and then plus another 2 for the strength of the attack. That's strength 13 attack. So if he hits you, it's gonna hurt. So I always take that as because if they get within 8 inches, I can't use most of the Warlord's weapons anyways, and nothing's gonna be larger than a Warlord. So Hermeru Savage a pretty good thing. Or I take my favorite, which is just pivot 45 degrees, because God, they need it so badly. And then Trophy Taker. No one ever takes it, but it's funny. It's a bitch gimme that kind of thing. It's any weapon disabled by the Tiger Eyes Princeps using a smash attack or a weapon with the melee trait is 1 higher than normal to repair, which doesn't work against like Vulcan Mega Bolters, but some things are, I think, 5 or 6 to repair, making them absolutely possible to repair. I think the plasma is a 6 up to repair. If I rip the plasma off of you, it's basically, bitch, give me that. You ain't taking that back. And you never can repair that ever again. I've never used it.
Weird, because if you're going to hit, why hit a weapon when it could go for a kill. Such a
No
weird
idea.
neat thing.
Niche thing, but it is funny.
I guess that'd be funny at Disarm of War Master.
Yeah.
That'd
Remember,
be really
in the
funny,
game, they go
actually.
a lot of
They
times
are
for
5
Hit
and
its arm
6 to repair
behind
the
and back.
weapons.
That
Yes.
is fair.
Now, I should point out that I'm starting a loyalist group, Warp Runners, and they are literally they're the literal complete. So as you heard, Legio Furean is all about damage and pressure, and oh my god, they're savaging. Warp Runners are literally the literal complete opposite of it. So they are loyalists. They're complete loyalists, and so they have 2 special rules as well. Ironically, they have almost very similar. Sorry, they have 2 special rules. First of all, the first and second turns, Legio Storm Titans may add 2 to their boosted movement, but you must roll 2 reactor dice and choose the least favorable result. So this is kind of cool. I like this one. Gives a little bit more boosted movement. So this makes a Reaver move what 11? I need math here. Someone. So Reaver boost 9. Reaver's boost 9, right?
Normal
Yeah,
boost
9.
9, yeah. So boost
Yeah.
11.
So boost 11. A Warlord can move 8, right? And sure, you roll 2 dice, pick the least favorable, but 2 inches in a 4x4 board is actually a lot. And remember, if you double move, this does actually count for that. It's turn 1 and turn 2. You also have veteran princeps during the damage control phase when rolling for an emergency repair. This is the most important thing. This is what makes them the complete opposite of Legio Furean. They can re-roll 1 repair dice. This is massive. It sounds stupid, but this is massive. Warhounds can re-roll 1 dice out of 2. That's amazing. Reavers can re-roll 1 dice out of 3. Warlords can re-roll 1 dice out of 4.
Nope. They just
Oh,
roll
wait.
2 dice.
Oh, sorry. I forgot the second part of this. I apologize. Titan skill 10 or higher may roll 2 dice. So this makes them a premier, like almost defensive, if you will, Legio, where a Warlord, if you take down its shields, oh no, this sucks. But they're rolling 4 dice, we roll 2. I don't know what Dave can do the math on that one real quick. But the chances of getting to 6 is quite high. I should point out it's also reroll. You could reroll successful dice too. I don't know why you would do that, but you know what I mean? It's pretty good. This makes them a very defensive legion, which I kind of enjoy. It's a very, very different thing from a Furean.
Question: do they specify when you say it's 2 dice take the worst, 2 reactor dice take the worst? Do they specify what is worse? Like, did they mention that?
From worst to
Okay,
they did
good.
fix it. They did because in the original they didn't. From worst to best, it is 2 heat, machine spirit, 1 heat, blank.
Okay, so machine spirit is
2
not
heat is
considered the
worse
worst
than
then.
machine spirit.
Got it. Okay.
No, 2 heat is always worse because machine spirit can be beneficial. I guess is the argument.
I agree.
If you fail,
I agree, but if you it's not beneficial if your goal was to move, because the movement's never going to be better than the movement you were going to do, if you even get to move.
Yes.
But that's why I
still
wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bounty of Mars. So they have 2 stratagems, not 1. Which again have to do with their defensiveness. So Bounty of Mars, which is 2 stratagem points, so 1/3 of your stratagem. Not 1/3. Well, it's close. No, 40% of your stratagems. Choose 1 type of critically damaged system or weapon at the beginning of the game. Which and at the beginning of the damage control phase, you get +1 to the repair roll for that phase, for that repairing that thing. So if let's say your chest is critically damaged, normally you need a 5 up to repair the chest. You can choose to repair that chest with a 4 up, which is really nice. Or let's say your plasma needs a 6 up or a 5 up. Sorry, you could repair it at a 4 up. It's a kind of nice thing to repair. However, this is not the most important stratagem that the Legio Storm have. It's Machine Defiance, one of my favorite I shouldn't say got you because got you is so negative. But it's one of my favorite haha, fuck you moments.
And that's not negative at all, of course.
No. It got you. So I don't know, for people listen, got you moments is I'm not going to tell Dave that this is what I can do. And so when he does it, I'm like, I got you. I'm going to beat you now. This is more of that people are going to 99.9% of the time, this is in their stratagem pile. With Furean, maybe I'll take it, maybe I not, depending on the mana pool. You will absolutely take this stratagem 100% of the time. So when a Titan shields go down, you roll a number of dice equal to the Titan servitor cleaves. For each 5 up, you immediately regain 1 shield. Love it. Love it.
That is good, especially trying to save maybe the first Titan they're trying to get through.
Oh yeah, and it's you can pair this with war gear. So should have pointed this out. Traitors have warp fuckery. They have mutations.
Yes.
Loyalists have war gear. They can pimp out their Titans. For example, they can make their really cool upper racks, instead of being what we talk about fixed forward, they can turn it into a 90-degree arc, which is really good. Traitors can't do that.
I think
You
they can.
compare this. No, I didn't see that in the Traitor book.
No, that's one of the universal upgrades. Loyalists do have their own upgrades.
Oh, okay.
They
I don't
have their
think-
own nonsense.
If it was
they
universal,
can-
it'd be in the Traitor book.
It is in
It's
the
not in
Trader
the Trader-
book. It's.
I don't.
I think
While
it'll be
you
the
look,
wrong section. I'll get a page
oh,
number for you.
check it. I was gonna say I don't think we have that, but you compare this with a lot of the war gear that the loyalists have, which, for example, you can give an extra 2 servitor clades that can only be used for shields. So now you're rolling 6 dice, and on a 5 up, the shield comes back. It's a really great defensive. Again, you take this all the time. They also have a Titan of Legend, which is Lucious Praetorian. Such a pompous name. I love it. It's a Reaver Titan with any weapons of your choice, as always. But you have an extra servitor clave, and you add 1 to the repair rolls for your Lucious Praetorian. So it's a Reaver Titan with 4 servitor clades to repair, and they get +1 to the entire die pool.
How many extra
So your
points
pop. He's over there on the bookshelf. I'd have to look him up.
That's fine. I thought you had the books in front of you.
No. I don't. I wrote all this down weeks ago. Yeah. But I mean, most of them are expensive. Yeah, they're more expensive. I'll put in the show notes. The Princip traits are also pretty cool. Again, don't roll for them, please. Just house. I know it's a house rule, but it's just a common sense house. It's one of those house rules where it's a universe. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
The other option is not fun.
Fun, exactly.
Some amount of randomization that feels fair can be fun. When you play this game, you're going to roll a bunch of dice. Dice are going to go your way sometimes, not go your way other times. That will still feel fun because there's enough of it. One single die roll that could go terrible for you and great for the other person is not fun.
No, I agree. Yep. 1000% agree. So, where was I? Oh yeah. So Hero of the Crusade, basically, as long as the Princeps is the closest thing to the nearest enemy Titan, all Titans add +1 to command checks, which is great in my opinion. Doesn't seem like a lot, but +1 to command checks for the entire mana pool, as long as you're closer, is great. Especially since you're such a defensive Titan. So you bring your Reaver really close up. Your Warhounds are now passing on what, a 3 or 4? Your Reavers are passing on to 3. Your Warlords are passing on 2. It's basically a good cumulative effect. Reckless Hubris. Once per round, basically the Princeps may ignore the negative effects of a critically damaged system or ignore a disabled weapon and fire that weapon if it were functional. So now there's a detriment. I didn't get to that, but this is pretty wow. Basically, you say, if your Princeps is hurt, you're -1 hit. You can be like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna be reckless about this. Or maybe someone tore off your plasma and they're like, haha, you can't kill me. You're like, haha, don't care. The problem is, after that system or weapon is used, you get a strength 12 hit to the body, ignoring void shields. Yeah,
could be very bad. Could be fine if you haven't taken much damage and maybe they just lucked out and took out a weapon or something like that. If you've already taken criticals, no, that might be awful.
Yeah, or it could be a 1. And it is once per round, so you can do this every round, which could suck. But again, it's kind of cool.
Wanting to do that more.
This is something that you would take if you're being a knife fighter, and this is it's a kind of a final blow. Ancient MIU. Instead, I don't know anyone who takes this. I don't know why you would take this. Instead of taking a command check during the strategy phase, the Princeps Titan may be given a random order.
What? Wait.
It can't be shut down, by the way. It can't be shut down.
Okay.
That was
all right.
Yeah, it can't be shut down.
There we go. That was my
sorry.
first question. Why would
Yes.
you ever take it? Why the hell would you want to give yourself a random order? That's terrible.
Because Vox Blackout exists.
Yep.
I can't think of
Vox,
any
that's
actual real reason.
Yep. So there's 2 reasons. Traders can do some fuckery where they give you, I think, up to -6 on your command checks, or they could just play Vox Blackout, which ends the command phase. And you could just be like, okay, but if I get any order, because you think about it, Dave, the only order that really would suck would be move, right? But first fire can work, especially if you're tight.
Could, but it depends on your positioning because then
Yeah,
you're not
it's one
getting
of
to
those.
move, so you could be out of position.
In my opinion, it's like the Furean one, where it's like rip up something and it's +1 harder to repair. It's one of those very niche, kind of funny. Would you ever take it? Probably not.
When did it say this triggered?
Instead of taking a command check during the strategy phase.
So, but if someone played Vox Blackout, that ends the phase. So,
Oh, that's right. But this is the strat.
yeah, you still wouldn't get anything from this.
Yeah, so I have no idea what you.
So does Vox Blackout go at the start of the strategy phase? Is that how it's worded?
Shuffles in with the strat. Well, you have the stratagems, yeah.
Okay, then
So-
yeah. So yeah, this is
Yeah.
just I don't know. The only way I could see this as being useful, I don't know. Let's say
I'm gonna say
what is
it's
it,
not.
Looper-
But
Well,
I'm just-
it's not, but we're gonna go weird edge cases here that no one should ever do. If you were running, say, Looper Call Maniple, where you have tons of Warhounds, where even with your pluses, it might be very tough for you to get off, a command on them. Maybe then, because you could technically do a unit. Again, still
That's a
not good, but that's about the
3-up
only time I would
for
do
the
it.
Princeps because get a +2.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I'm not
3
saying
by
it's
defense.
good. I'm just saying
Yeah,
there's at least a
totally.
spot where you might theoretically consider it. I don't think there's any other time I would even. If it was a bigger
Seriously,
Titan,
no.
then I'm automatically
Maybe-
essentially on 2s.
Does it let you do another order, a random one, albeit after you fail orders?
What's the wording?
it
Instead
says
of rolling?
instead of taking a command check.
No, so you wouldn't be able to do it after failing orders because you're not allowed. You're not allowed to attempt command checks. Then. To me, I would say you'd have to be
It's
allowed to
super
try
weird.
it.
You know what,
It's super
Dan?
weird.
If you play Astorum, I do think we should randomly roll for our traits.
Oh yeah, fuck you.
1 in 3 chance I get to activate twice, and you get to randomly pick your orders. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, pretty fair. Yeah, no, I think it's funny. I was kind of when I saw that, I was very much laughing, but then I kind of looked at the other legios. Every legio has that one goof. I don't want to call it a goof because that kind of is like is mean. I feel like every legio, if you kind of this is just me, I flipping through the book. Every legio has that one what the fuck kind of princeps trait.
Gryphonicus, man. Ours are all good.
Like,
I don't know enough of their lore. My assumption, you could tell me if I'm wrong. My assumption is maybe if you know their lore, my assumption is that probably fits their lore well.
yeah,
That's probably why it fits.
Yeah.
Like
They're part of the
they're
tribe,
known
right?
for having crazy princeps who can't decide what to do or some bullshit.
Yeah, I have no idea what the lore is on this one. I'm pretty sure someone who is smarter than me is screaming at the computer right now, typing
More neckbeardy.
furiously.
Maybe not smarter,
Yes.
but more neckbeardy.
But I have zero idea what
Are
this
they the
is.
Lucius one? The Lucius Legio?
Honestly, I don't know.
No,
We
they're
haven't
the,
done the
Lucius.
deep dive in that stuff yet, so I haven't read through
yeah.
all the
No, they're
legions.
it's Legio Astorum. They're the blue, golden, yellow. No, it's they're I have
Really
no
weird,
idea.
'cause they, in old school Titanicus, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
Yes, I would.
Storm, the Warp Runners, the one that could teleport Titans into battle?
No.
No?
So there were no teleporting Titans. There were drop Titans.
Oh, okay.
And that still
Tempestus
exists.
still has drop Titans.
Yes,
I didn't know.
Tempestus still
I
has
thought a Storm
drop
got
Titan.
teleportation because they're the Warp Runners. They
No.
run through the warp and into the
The
battlefield.
reason they're called the Warp Runners, and again, actually I don't even want to say because I swear to God, if a neckbeard starts yelling at me.
So if anyone does want to, I'll have this posted on the Titanicus subreddit as well as on our Facebook
You know
page
what?
once I
Nope.
put that together.
I'm not going to say the
Put
fluff.
your address for free.
Nope, don't have the book in front of me. Fuck it, not going to say shit.
That's it.
Not saying goddamn word. No. In all seriousness, I think they were called Warp Runners only because they were the ones on Terra defending the walls, and they were one of the first ones to enter the warp breach underneath the palace. Oh, sorry, spoilers. Shit. There's a webway under the throne, guys.
We've known that for 30 years, Dan.
There's a webway under the throne, guys. Now they were one of the first ones to kind of enter the warp and help the custodians out, so they were called the Warp Runners. But I'm not going to say more because I'm pretty sure I'm completely wrong. And yeah.
I hope just the fattest neckbeards currently typing.
Fucking so angry right now.
That would
Oh
be
my god,
great.
Fuck you,
I'm gonna
Dan.
do
You
it.
ruined my favorite Legio.
Yeah.
God
Just so
damn it, I
people
love
know, like
Legion.
when we go through the legios, at least for
Yep.
my part, I'm gonna go through, read a bit of the lore, read about the different ones, make some notes for that. For some of these legios, I don't know them well enough right now. There's like
Okay,
32 of them
All right,
that they
Dan.
the
have.
warp
There's no
runners
way
are
I
well
know
known.
enough.
Really quick, the warp runners are well known for setting the tempo of war and marching swiftly to the sound of battle. Their god engines are well tuned to the defensive nature of war, devouring kilometers beneath their massive stride. Astorum Princeps call this the war march and gladly endure the rigors placed upon both machine and mind to reach the foe sooner under withering amounts of fire. And they force the machine spirits to the war engines into actions, even though ancient mechanisms rebel against them, which is probably why there's sort of the random
That's because
roll.
they go fast. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not that they
Okay,
go
so
fast.
that gives a
It's
reason why they have a
they
random.
they have a tempo to their actually they kind of remind me of like almost Imperial Fists. The idea of like a
That's
very
right.
defensive, very defensive, very okay.
My friends, I'm reading the
Are
page.
they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm reading the page too.
There's your next epic army, Dan. You've been dying like,
fuck you.
I want white scars, I want white scars. Well, there you go. Now I can do a 500 bike army.
Fuck, I so little side note, I did make a White Scars kind of list on Horus Heresy, and 500 bikes is just a normal list.
Wait, what? Oh, I'm assuming you mean for
For
epic,
epic.
right?
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
You would never do that because it does absolutely nothing to tanks. It's got no AT anti-tank, but I was like, yeah, like please no,
drown
please,
them in your bikes. That's all you do.
pretty much. But yeah, that's the Legios I play. That's about it. Seems
How
sorry.
much do you have of that Legio so far? Do you actually have any of it?
I bought a box. I bought.
Okay.
I found a box. For super cheap actually. The old box, the original box that I really love, the Warlord Reaver 2 Warhound.
Oh, that's a good
So I
box.
found that box. I found that box for a store was selling it. It was the hell was the store? It was, my wife and I randomly found it. I walked in. I was like, oh shit, because they put in the clearance because it's such an old box that it was like faded from the sun. Because that box is what now 4 years old? No, 2 years old. Two or 3 years old. But it was like
3
sun
years at
fade.
this point.
Yeah, it was like sun faded already. And they marked it down, and I got the box for $80.
That's actually really good. That's
Man,
a
I'll
Yeah.
get
that's a
$100
lot.
for that box.
You were gonna say that too. Yeah, no, I got it for $80, and I swooped that shit up so quick it wasn't even funny.
I mean that's a lot, and that's a good amount of essentially a mana pool. You could actually run a small army of that to play the game.
Yep,
Like, that's
yep,
a
yep, yep.
1250, 1500 point list. That's a very nice Axiom mana pool, actually.
Yeah.
One Reaver short of the full thing.
And that was the original Axiom.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of projects that I'm paying people for. So it's last. I mean, I still have my Infinity to fucking glue and paint for Christ's sake. That's the
Yeah.
last thing on like me paying people to do. So that's
You
a
do it yourself.
long. Oh, no, this is the one thing I won't paint. I think we talked about that in like the first episode. I can paint normal 28-minute miniatures fine. I can do epic fine, but for some odd reason the Titans just do not click with me, and I just the amount of trim. It's weird. It's weird.
Oh man, I was in trim hell the other day.
I know you
I
told
spent
me.
2 hours just painting the trim on one Reaver's like shin armor. I didn't even do highlights. I was just base going. All right, that was yeah.
I don't know.
So for
An
those who don't
airbrush
know,
helps.
there's a Sharpie method for doing
Yeah.
all the trim.
Oh yes, we were
People
discussing
swear
this.
by it, and man, I wish I picked the Sharpie color. I really do.
Legio Vulpa's trim is bone. It's essentially a bleached bone color, but it works pretty well with an airbrush. So I'll spray it, and I literally airbrush the panels, to get all the trim done, and then I'll go in and blacken the inside, so that way I can do my seven color layers on top to be able to get the marbling effects. Because I'm not going to airbrush the marble on that. Airbrush on other bases, but not on that stuff.
Would stippling work as well for?
That's what I
Vulpa?
for the coloring. Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Essentially, I do a combination of stippling and washes. It's
That'll do.
4 paints, 3 washes are what I use. That's what I use for purple, and I use the same amount for the red.
Build it up, dull it down, build it up, dull it down, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. You start on
Nice.
black. You start with say you take the purple, some darker purples, a few layers of that, dull it back down, brighter and brighter, dull it back down one last time, and then you just kind of let it sit like that. It's the same sort of thing I'll do on like tanks or anything like that.
Yeah.
It works well. It just takes a really long time because obviously when you're doing the washes,
It's a
layers have to
process.
dry.
Yeah, you have to let that shit dry entirely. You're also going to wipe right off, and then you'll get really sad.
Oh, yeah. And the other problem is you can't really go back and fix it easily if you make a mistake. It takes a while to fix. So afterwards, since you've done all the stippling, you have to go back and fix up the trim a little bit, usually, because obviously, unless you sponge perfectly, you've gotten a little bit on there. But you have to be very careful with that, because if you miss, you got to wipe it off immediately. Otherwise, you're having to redo little spots. Actually, at one point, I got it was glue on something. I forgot it was my finger or something else that touched it. And when I pulled it up, because it's 7 layers put throughout, there's actually a thickness to it, a little bit, not much. But I got glue on it. When I pulled it up, the glue came off, and there was actually a divot. So I had to try to rebuild just inside that divot, so that way it actually would look smooth.
Oof.
And that was fun.
Yes, totally fun.
It was fun. It's enjoyable though. I like painting. I do enjoy doing that. On those Titans, I mean, there's a reason why my War Master is still not done, but at least for a while, I did enjoy painting them and all. I do want to get back to it once I get a few other things that I really need done first. But they're not. You can put tons of time into these models if you wish, but if you don't want to, there's some schemes out there that can actually go really fast. Like it's the black and red one. Is that Ignatum?
Ignatum
Is it the one?
is the red one with the chevrons and all that. You're thinking of the Murder Lords, I think.
Murder, yes.
Black, red trim, and then optional white flames.
Yes, exactly. They have very cool rules. Well, I haven't looked at their new ones, but in the past they had very cool
They are
rules.
batshit crazy.
Yeah, and they have
They're
a
literally
very
batshit
nice
crazy.
and easy scheme to do. Their scheme is not that tough if you don't want to go for that high level. You can do any of this stuff to very high levels, but if you don't want to go high level, you're black, you're painting some trim, a little bit of a pain, but not too bad, and then maybe you put you brush or some decals in. Essentially, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think the last, because we talked a little bit about King Star before. I think the last big thing is a little about the rules. So as you put here, the biggest issue I have, and this is true of any GW that they do, is the amount of
Any
rule
GW
books
game.
they come out with. Yeah, they do it for all of them, and the same
Now,
thing is true for that.
Yeah, okay, so I will point out, so yes and no on Titanicus. Because I'm not going to paint Titanicus with a nice rosy. Yes, so
if you want to.
yes, so it's a yes and no with Titanicus. So you have the rulebook, and because they now have finally released Loyalist and Traitor Legio books, technically that's all you need. You need your rulebook, and then either Loyalist or Traitor, or both if you want. I don't care. But that's all you need. You just need, it's basically you need the rulebook and your codex. That's it. You literally need nothing else. But, and this, yeah, there's the but. There's a big but. 2 things are missing from the Legio and Traitor books. Technically 3. One, you're missing pretty much all the narrative ever from all the other books. So all the other books have a bunch of narrative campaigns. In fact, one book has literally a campaign rule set. Doesn't even have to be narrative. It's just literally
one for map based and one for attrition.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yes, you're right. So you're missing that. You're also technically missing Night Household rules, which are in the Doom of Moloch book. Although technically,
and
this
also
is again,
in Ryza, because that's where you get the banners.
Yeah, so you're. Well, actually, I didn't even realize that. So that sucks. If you're playing a Night Household, you need 2 more. You need 2 books. Technically, you don't need Loyalist or Traitor, but you need those 2 books to play. So that's rulebook plus 2 books. It also means you don't have custom legios or black shields. So we talk about black shields. Black shields are your ragtag group of not mercenaries, but ragtag group of whatever's left of a legio, and custom legios are custom legios. And that's also in the Doom of Moloch as well. So
Ryza, defensive.
Oh, sorry, defensive Ryza. So, like, I don't want to paint it in a bad. I'm going to give it like a solid. I'm going to say a B grade on this, because technically all you need is the rulebook and then Loyalist or Traitor to play. Or technically, if you want to play Knight, it sucks, but you can do rulebook, Doom of Moloch, defensive Ryza. No, you know what? Fuck these guys. I'm giving them a C, and there's a reason why. I'll talk about it later.
I'm going C.
I'm going C. Oh, I want to see. I want to see if you agree with me in this.
Okay.
And because I read I'm reading my notes and I just saw F and I got angry for a very specific reason. The one thing GW does with Titanicus, and it does piss me off, like this is a real angry Dan moment right here. And I'm not gonna rant, I promise, but this really fucking angers me.
Coming around.
They yeah, they limited run shit.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
this oh, actually I'd even probably knock this to a D. Because this is
No,
infuriating.
D is reserved for Necromunda.
Okay,
sorry, that's an F.
Here's
Necromunda's
the
a
thing, though.
straight F.
So let me yeah,
Before you get into that, it's worse than limited run.
it is
Because
worse.
Limited run. Say you play a card game, say you play Magic. Magic is limited runs. The particular set, unless you're talking about like the base set of the year or certain things like that, they're only produced for a certain amount of time. But they produce tons of it. They produce it for X amount of weeks or month or whatever it may be.
Everyone has a
They
chance to
limited
get it.
run, like if you don't have it in the first 5 minutes, it shows up on the website.
Scalpers will Scalpers will absolutely 1000% scalp this by 1000%. There's no doubt
literally
about it.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's not like they're
Some of the big
scalping.
ones. The
So-
Night Household Stratagems. that
Yep, and
whole
I was just
deck.
gonna say. So some of the things they scalp are dice, which it's I'm listen, I'm the kind of geek that likes to play with, I don't know if you visited my Instagram, but like I like to have Custodes dice for my Custodes, ogre dice for my ogres. I like being, little shit about that. So
Those dice
that
roll better
irks
when they
me.
match.
Some people don't care. Some people don't care. I actually care about that. But some things, like Steve just mentioned, are the fucking stratagem cards for knights. So some people don't want to use the goddamn book. They want to have an actual deck of cards to pull stratagems from. Those are gone,
And it gets
or they're
worse.
scalped on eBay.
It gets worse. There's house-specific stratagems for the Molech houses
My
that
fucking
are
God.
not in the book.
Of course.
Yep.
The worst scalping, the worst. I think this is what one of the big things that makes Titanicus fun is the that's not called random scenarios. What did you open war is the
War
open
engine
war engine cars, right? Or what is it? Open war or open engine?
Open engine war, I think, is the technical.
Open engine.
Uh,
Yeah, I was looking at them
I guess.
yesterday.
So basically, this is like a Legion style of plane, and they came out for like $20, right? I am on eBay right. Oh, I'm on eBay right now. Anyone want to take a wild guess? Go ahead.
75.
60.
Yep, 70 to 88.
Jesus.
Yep, and I love it. BNIB OOP completely. Fuck you. You know what you did, piece of shit. So that is one thing that I'm going to do.
That's bad because I actually picked up for the recent card releases. I picked up 2 or 3 packs just so that my local guys, like they'll be in for like 3 months and they'll be out for 3 months, right? If they're not in when these things release, like they're not getting it. So I always pick up an extra pack, which is bad because it makes it hard for everyone else to get packs. But like, man, it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm never in favor of scalpers, but what I will say, GW is the one who causes the problem because they limit it so bad, and these people know. So it's a niche product, and they make so little of it. To me, they're more at fault than the scalpers because you know what? If they made a bunch, and they've done that before on things where they talked about it being limited and they didn't limit it, and then it worked fine. If they weren't doing it to that level, it would be fine.
I agree. I 1000% agree. 1000, and that's listen. I know we were just talking about this game, how great it is.
Still sell out in a week.
Like it doesn't make sense to me. It literally doesn't make sense to me.
For the 6 regular guys we have now, maybe 2 could get new stuff when it comes out for those cards.
It just it doesn't make any sense to me. And I know we're singing high. Yeah, I know we're singing high praises about GW, and we're singing high praises about the product, and it is a very fun game to play. But this is one of those things where I just can't put my foot down. I have to put my foot down on it. It's a very feel. I don't like telling someone, "Oh, here's the game," and they go, "Oh, those are really cool cards. Where can I get them?" Well,
you're gonna have to print them yourself.
Are you attached to your firstborn? Do you want to give them up?
Yeah.
It is a shame that they do that, and that's a practice they do in other games as well. That they still do that. I think part of the problem is with how many lines, how many games, how much stuff they have. They struggle being able to do it all. You can't necessarily produce everything to the level that will help everyone, but then just don't make it. I'd rather them not do the cards than now they have cards, but you can't get them if you weren't in then.
You also
Wait till you can do enough.
I think.
Yeah.
Like all their books and cards, I think are outsourced, which
yes, yeah, they're all.
They need to bring that in house already. They do it often enough. There's enough demand. They really should.
They're the only people who still charge for rules and stuff like that. One of their big aspects is books. So, do them in a way that way people can get them.
That said, that really sucks, and it absolutely does suck. It's not essential to play the game,
Now,
but it does suck that you can't always get.
for things that feel very helpful to the game.
Yeah, like I love the open cards. They make the game a blast. They definitely open up the scenario generation a ton. And outside of a few very specific setups, it's balanced and doesn't break them. Unless you're playing on Shattered World, but it's in the name of the card. It's broken.
Yeah.
Don't fight on a Shattered World, guys.
Yeah. We'll go through at
Yeah.
separate times the individual books. We'll do a little bit of, the history. We'll talk about the story that's in them. We'll talk about what actual rules, the stuff they give them. And we've probably given, I would say overall, enough of a breakdown of what the books are. But like I said, for right now, if you were starting out or if you're coming back to the game or anything like that, if you've been out for a little bit, you need your rule book. And if you get the book that your legio is, there's traitor or loyalist. If you want to do households, that's a whole nother thing. And that's a discussion, honestly, for a separate day. Because there's we talked about it before, but there's a lot more involved in that. I think that's a harder thing to just pick up and decide. Anything else that we want to say about the game overall?
Steve, go ahead.
I mean, it's the most fun game. I gave a demo. Was it yesterday? Yeah, I gave a demo yesterday. Granted, the guy did watch a lot of battle reports and was, absorbing rules that way. But, gave a demo, and after the demo, I was like, that was great. It took probably an hour for the demo. And played a full-on game, and that took half with a couple more Titans per side. That's with an experienced gamer that's watched videos, but it's not a game that you're gonna end up stuck when you're playing. You're every couple minutes you're engaged because your opponent's activating a Titan, and then it goes back to you. So it's a game you're constantly playing it. And I think that's a ton of fun. I think it's good game design to keep people engaged like that. Because sometimes, I'll be playing of other games and I'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna go next door while you're rolling your dice for your shooting attack. You want anything or a coffee or a donut or something? No, you're good. All right, I'll be back in a minute. Not Titanicus. You're constantly playing when you're playing Titanicus and not in a mentally straining, when do I unleash my gotcha kind of way.
True.
I love the game. It's beautiful. It's fun.
The lack of strain is absolutely helped by the fact of how few models you have. Again, assuming you're not running a household, a night household or anything like that. But otherwise, you don't have many models. Yeah, you have important decisions to make, and they're vital decisions, but you don't have a lot of them you have to make at any one point. So you can play. Obviously, you can play any game casually, but even if you were playing this competitively, this one I don't think is the brain burner that some other games out there, especially say, if we want to talk about few model count, when we talked about Infinity in the past, an Infinity tournament can be very, very rough because the decisions are exceptionally important and very difficult, and one wrong decision and you might have just lost the game there. Here, probably not going to happen. Or at least maybe your first decision may not lose you the game. Where Infinity, yeah, your first choice, you make the wrong choice, you might have just lost. So this is even less models than that, usually.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing much more to add than what you guys said. Even with a night household too, Dave, you're moving. It's a banner. It's entire banner moves. So you're still moving your whole section. So it's not like you're waiting night per night to move. You're moving that entire banner. So it's a quick game. It's a fun game. It's alternate activations. I've said this a million times on the podcast. One of my favorite top one games of all times is Epic, right? Epic clicked all the buttons. You had alternated. You had massive combat, large scale war on a small scale. You felt every unit what they did, even though it was such a massive scale. It just felt good. And Titanicus is that, just with big robots. The rule set is slick. The models are beautiful. I dare say that they are probably the most beautiful models that GW has ever produced. Pretty sure some people would disagree with me, but honestly, fuck them.
It's not the crab, man.
It's not the crab. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not the crab. It's 100% these because I mean just looking at the I was going to say the Imperator, Jesus Christ, the War Master Titan. And I know you're all about the Reavers, but just looking at the freaking War Master Titan and the detail and the riveting and the couplings and the weapons, it's just it's it's beautiful. It's a beautiful goddamn model. And it's
Posable.
it's pose and the models are
Each
posable.
toe on that thing is posable.
Yeah, it's just a good damn game at the end of the day. It's a good damn game. And it's not that expensive. It's really not. Really not that an expensive game.
For a GW game, no. Even for a
No.
miniature game
Like
in
I
general,
said,
it's not that
I mean, the odd $80 box that I found that I'm probably gonna get skinned for. I mean, what does a normal starter box cost again? What, like
The full-on starter?
yeah,
You
not the two player,
can...
not the 2-player. Do they
No,
still
the
sell like
starter box.
yeah,
Comes with the rules, 2 Reavers, 2 Warhounds, and 2 Lancers.
yeah. How
That,
much it cost?
I believe the MSRP is $150, but if you shop around, you probably get $125.
Yeah, I was gonna take 20% off as most stores do, or like online if you buy online.
15
It's
off, but yeah. Yeah, so it's like
yeah,
125, 127,
125,
something like
and
that.
then fuck it, add
And
a let's add
that's enough to
Warlord.
play a whole game.
That's enough to play a whole game. Let's say you
That's a
want to add a
1250
Warlord set.
list. If you're
Fuck
playing Traders and Corrupted Titans, that could be
yeah,
it's
that's there.
silly. That
Just
could
200.
be a 2K list if you load up enough mutations on your boys.
But even let's say you want to pick up a Warlord just in case, right? That's what $100. Well, what 100?
110
So
MSRP?
that's 100. I'm gonna say 100 to make my life easy.
It's
You can
110.
you can literally get a game for 200, 220 bucks, 225 bucks.
With some discounts, yeah. The biggest problem you're going to run into right now
Yeah.
is a lot of the starter, like the base starter right now is out of stock. That's
Oh, yeah, no,
that's the only
everything-
problem. It's
Is
been out
it
of stock for a
that's
while.
why? Because I'm like,
Yeah, it's because
I was all like,
popular
hey
game.
man, didn't we order like 2 more starter boxes for the wall? I was like, yeah, they haven't come in yet. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
they've
okay.
been out of stock for a very long time.
Yeah,
It's because it's a good product. Like
it's a good
it's
product. It's a
gone
good game.
in and out of
No.
stock a couple times.
Yeah.
I think the store sold 4 or 5 of the box since the league started. It's even good to expand armies. Like it's just a good box.
It's a good. All the boxes. The original box is my favorite. Actually, no, that's a lie. My favorite was what was the one with like it was a Warlord, a Warbringer, a Reaver, and 2 Warhounds? No, what was it? It was
That's the Precepts Manual box.
yeah, that was my favorite. That was I think the best deal that they've ever done ever. It was a Warlord, a Warbringer, a Reaver, 2 Warhounds. You find that shit? Oh no, isn't that no? That was online only. I think though.
I think so, yeah. I don't think that was
Oh.
an in-store thing.
Listen, you find the original box set of the Warlord, the Reaver 2 Warhounds, you instantly buy it. Instantly buy it. Because even if you don't buy it, you could resell that sucker for such a big amount of money.
People do like their fancy box artwork for some reason.
Yeah, they do.
If you're a weirdo and you want to do a Knight army, if you can find the Knight household one, that's also pretty good because it is enough to run a full lance where you have 2 Lancer units and a decked out Questoris unit. Because you could go double melee out of the box for your Questoris and have
All
a
my knights are
legal
double
lance
melee.
build. Double melee is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It's
double
cheap.
melee knights.
It's fun.
What? Yep, 150 for a squad of 3.
Yeah. Just gonna pretend that armatures don't exist, and I think we're good.
Yeah, let's not talk about
Oh wow, this Warlord Sinister is still in stock. Holy shit! It's the first time I've seen it in stock for more than a day. I was like, let me check to see if it's still in stock on Forge World. Finally, the United States has these things. I'm waiting for
I
mine to
understand
ship.
old stuff.
I'm gonna 3D print new armor panels though. I found some files that have the runes carved in.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have some fun with that. I'm probably gonna use it as a scenario piece more than an actual part of my army.
I'd like to
I
point out
gotta-
throughout this whole entire
I'll print it.
conversation, I've been literally I've been literally looking at epic I've been posing my epic miniatures this whole time.
Sorry, I paint while we talk. I usually do. It depends on what if
Yeah.
it's something where I know I have to lead a conversation, maybe not, but otherwise, yeah, I talking it because there's only so many hours you get in a day.
Inspire and forget between me
Mhm.
and Dan. Except then we'll just talk. Not
That is
get to the
true.
point.
Yeah, I'm more of just trying to play hold this together because we mentioned originally we were going to talk about like your guys' game and stuff like that. If you want to give like the short form of it because now it's
Yeah, give the short.
we've been going
give the
for
short,
a while.
Yeah, go on. Give it like the 5-minute recap.
Okay, so let's go back to December real fast. I ran an event. Unfortunately, people had to drop last minute due to COVID exposures. Their rides got COVID exposures. I'm feeling sick.
Jesus.
Gonna play it safe. Yeah, no, we lost out on about 4 people from the event because of various illness-related things. But nonetheless, we still had 6 people plus myself show up, which is not bad.
That's
Um,
good for a somewhat smaller specialist game in unfortunately not a really good time. That's actually really
yeah.
good.
Yeah. So, 6 people came out. One of the people that came didn't actually have, an army, but one of the guys had extra stuff. They said, "Oh, come here, you could take half of mine, and I'll take you under my wing." So I set up a 2v2 game for them so that, the new guy could get a helping hand, words
Yeah.
of advice, and some models. The owner of the models wouldn't be too far away either. So they'd be like, "Hey, why you abusing my shit? I'll smack you around." But no, he was good. He was
No,
good.
he would not.
So so those two on the one side. On the other side, I had Dan and our resident knight household player, and they were playing the battle for the Rocky Land space elevator. Essentially, I took the scenario from the Horus Heresy Book 9 called The Last Bastion. The idea is, two forces, there's a bastion, they really want to control it, but if it turns out, they can't control it and, the foe is going to claim victory in one final act of defiance, they could destroy the bastion to get a bunch of last minute points. The Loyalists did not wait that long. So we had Loyalist Legio Tempestus. Tempestus are traitors. Yeah, well, they still had Loyalists. Maybe they all died on Mars in the official canon, but we had some on this planet too. So we had a team of Tempestus on one side of the table. They had a warp missile. Sorry, not warp missile, a vortex missile, and upgraded this horrible, horrible thing. And they go, "Wow, that's a big, scary death ball of I think it was a lance of 12 Cerastus Lancers." They go, "Huh, well, fuck them." Fire the vortex missile. It scatters a little bit, damages some knights, and it starts hitting one of the support struts of this giant elevator, almost taking it out. Like, oh shit. And then every end phase, this ball of death, it rolls around the table, scatters about, hits things, tears them up. All on its own, this vortex missile took out 2 support struts and the central pillar of the space elevator. Each strut's falling down different directions. One of them lands on top of the knight household, and they all barely dodge out of the way. Another one lands right down the middle between Dan's Tiger Eyes and Brad's Tempestus, kind of cutting them off, leaving just the Warlord on its own. Like, oh, well, there's I I think even on its side it was 4 inches tall because these were thick struts. So the Warlord's like, huh, looks like that route's cut off, and then all of a sudden, in comes a Warhound double plasmas coming in from a drop pod because Tempestus can do that, and it spends the next 2 turns harassing the Warlord, eventually killing it. It was a silly game. It was fun. I didn't get to play, and I had fun watching that game go down. Engine kill, engine kill. Oh no, my reactor melted. Like it was a good
It was
time.
insane. It was insane. Good time. And then I invited wonderful Steve to my house for some basement gaming. Of course, masked and vast. I can't speak
Third
today.
time's a
Precautions were
charm.
taken.
Yes,
Yes.
precautions were taken, of course. But I do have a gaming room downstairs. We finally bought a house like last year, and one of my biggest dreams is to build a gaming room. And I have I think a beautiful gaming. Steve might say it's shit, but that's fine.
Listen,
But
man, your floors are nicer than the game shop store floors right now.
but that puts a smile on my face. So yeah, and I've been working it. So finally, Dave was actually supposed to come over, but Dave had a little family thing to go to.
Yep.
So the first person to play the basement was Steve, and we played Titanicus, 2,000 points. I finally got to play my War Master for the first time and 4 Warhounds. Steve brought his Ferox, I believe, with 3
Yep.
Reavers, 2 Warhounds, and 5 Lancers.
4
4
lancers out
Lancers
in a Castus.
and the Castus Porphyrian. It was a bloody game, and I think a couple of highlights for me of the game was so we played open war cards. Open war cards. How do I explain this? Because the easiest way to explain it is that it's Legion, Star Wars Legion.
But what I
Um,
don't play Legion. What does that mean?
yeah, exactly. So essentially, instead of playing the missions from the rulebook, which ironically can be bad sometimes, what open war cards is, you set out essentially three. You shuffle the deck and you set out 3 planetary cards, 3 primary objective cards, 3 deployment cards, 3 planetary effect cards, and I'm missing one.
Primary objectives?
I said so. Hold on. I should have went
Planetary effect, battlefield effect,
battlefield
primary
effects.
objective,
Battlefield effects.
battlefield effect. Okay.
Okay, and you set
And
these out and
deployment.
you lay them in 5 rows of 3. And essentially, instead of 2 people, I found out that it's actually supposed to be 3, but whatever. And you take turns back and forth, flipping over the leftmost card. And each player gets 3 turns to do this because there are 15 cards. It's 3 times 5. Yes, there are 15 cards. And you can pass as well, which does count as a turn. You can't pass and then flip over 3. Pass is your turn. And you flip over the leftmost card of each row. And then after you each go back and forth 3 times, you only take the leftmost cards, and that's what you're playing with. So it's a great way to kind of not only it's randomization with choice. Please, someone, Dave or anyone, just
Okay.
Yeah.
So it gives you this cloud of battles that could be, and you narrow it down.
yeah.
So the premise originally, I guess in this, that's how they officially tell you to do it.
No.
These cards?
No, it's completely different.
Officially, you just
I-
draw, but that
Yeah.
is some
So
bullshit.
in Legion, when you play Legion, you're setting out 9 cards, 3 of each type, and then
9.
you are
Okay,
making
that's right.
2 choices in Legion when you do it. And the idea is that, like I said, you have this grid, so you can see to the leftmost what your game will be if no one does anything. In Legion, the reason this is done is because when you come to the game, you come with a set of cards. You come with your set of 9. They come with their set of 9, depending on who has initiative. And in Legion, they call it red and blue. But essentially, whoever has initiative, that's going to determine whose deck is being used, and that determines who gets first choice. So the big thing in there, the reason why it matters doing it this way is, I didn't get to choose the cards. You laid out your cards randomly, but you laid out your cards. So I'm trying to choose and remove things or try to keep things best I can that will help me. You've probably selected your stuff to be advantageous for you as best you can. If I notice, oh man, this mission is out, for you, that mission will be great. Well, I'm going to flip it then. Maybe you don't do your choice because you want to make sure that one of these piles stays higher because you like those choices. In here, it adds a little bit of player agency rather than just a pure random choice, which is nice because then I can look at it and say, well, you know what? You run your Titans very hot. Well, yeah, we're on like a world with a volcano and it's going to get warmer near the middle. I'm not going to touch that row then. You're going to have to spend one of your 2 choices to flip it if you want to get rid of that. But yeah, in Legion, it's a 3x3 grid, and you're doing 2 flips each.
This one is 5x3, so that's why you have the extra third turn, I guess I should say. But yeah, we flipped it. It was we had a battlefield where essentially there was straight fire coming from both sides. So every end phase, you had to roll a dice, and on a 2-up, a Titan got hit with D6 strength 8 hits.
Which is notable. That can do damage.
That can do damage. It was random, but absolutely can destroy Titan. Especially when Titan is hurt everywhere, like my Warhounds were. And then the planet was a industrial planet. I'm trying to remember what the industrial planet. I don't know. It was what was the planetary effect? Do you remember?
If it was an industrial world, it gives you an extra stratagem for battlefield assets.
No, it wasn't industrial then. All right. Trying to remember. I can't remember for the life of me. But anyway, point is, so I had my Warhound and my War Master. He had his force. It was just a fun game. Some highlights were my War Master turn 2, completely bifurcated his Reaver. So my Warhounds, I didn't activate the double firing that turn, but my Warhounds essentially shot down the shield. Oh no, almost shot down the shield.
Not
of a
even.
Reaver.
That was
not even.
purely your
Really
War
bad.
Master. That was purely
Yeah,
your
and
War
the
Master.
War Master came in, and the War Master, weirdly enough, gets a +1 to hit with its plasma guns at long range. Normally, it's -1, but because the War Master is such a stable platform, it gets +1 to hit. So my War Master decided to completely bombard the living hell out of this Reaver with his plasma blast guns, which normally aren't used to take down shield. But hey, 2 hits is 4 shield saves, which is great. Then I shot the limited missile, took down a shield, and then the the 2 plasma blast guns just completely bifurcated this damn thing in one shot. Well, I guess 2, because it was 2 different guns, 2 of the same gun from different arms. But it completely destroyed his Reaver, like just wrecked it, to the point where the Reaver actually turned around and violently shot its lance mates, its Night Lance right next to it,
Yep.
which made them
With a
shake
melta
for the rest
cannon.
of the game. With a melta cannon,
Of
which
course, I
actually
critted and killed a knight.
and
And then
shoot
I
them.
failed the command check. And then I
Yep.
continued to fail the command check.
It actually shook them for 2 entire turns.
But the rest of their lives, actually.
Yeah. His Reaver, one of the fun parts was his Reaver actually was able to, or not his Reaver, his Porphyrian was using his bunker. What was the stratagem called?
The forward observers, or something like that.
And he would use the forward observers to basically shoot the Porphyrian missiles around corridors, which is absolutely amazing. But overall, just a fun damn game, honestly. Like this is it got to the point. Oh, sorry, the end of the game. It literally got to the point where it
Turn
was
4,
a
I
tie
won.
game.
Turn 4,
No,
I was winning.
turn
It
4,
was
yes. Turn
10 to
4,
0,
you
turn
won.
4. Turn 5, it was
It was a
5 to
tie
5.
game because after turn 4 is you
I
go
got
turn
my
4.
secondary, which
Turn
was
5,
have my Warhound die, because he was carrying a virus bomb on him, basically.
yeah, basically have the Warhound die
And
past.
secondary was to kill my Princeps. And then we had to control objective markers on the table.
Yeah, and
I
so
controlled an objective, Dan didn't. I had my Warhound dead, so I had 10 to Dan's 0. Then my Warlord died, and I lost the objective.
yeah, and so turn 5 we were tied.
5 and 5.
5 and 5. So turn 6, yeah. So turn 5, he had nothing on the board, and we were still tied. By the way, he was tabled. I should point out that tabling in this game doesn't mean you lose. I should point that out. But you still score. So turn 5, he's completely tabled, right? His Reaver blew himself up because it turned red.
Yep.
And any strength 9 hit would have just killed it. So it literally toppled over from heat. It was just gone. And I eradicated his Porphyrian off an objective. So I was the only War Master on the table. I needed literally a turn 6 to happen, which is I think a 4 or lower on a D10. I needed to push my War Master for movement and not go crazy. I needed to push my War Master for heat and not go crazy. Or sorry, for turns, not go crazy. I then needed to roll the order to double move. And I managed to do all those things. I pushed all the way to the orange, which did hurt my War Master actually a lot. I think I rolled 2 devastatings on him. But I managed to get on the objective turn 6, which got me the win of the game by 5 points. It was just an insane game. Yeah, that's it.
It sounds like you guys had fun, and it
brought
got
beer, too,
exceptionally
which was
close,
awful.
and it just couldn't work out. Just any one roll there fails is what you're hoping for. So you just couldn't get one roll.
Exactly. I just need one more thing anywhere in that game. But I mean, that's what keeps it fun, you know? That's why I love these alternate activation games, because, you know, we were both constantly engaged on, you know, until turn 6 where I had no models. Even then, I was engaged watching could Dan actually reach the objective. Like,
Yeah, that was the turn 6 to where
we
he
were
had
both
literally
constantly playing the game. It wasn't, you know, I'm sitting there, Dan shooting his army at me, and I lost half my army, and that's that. Like, nah, you know, that's alternate activations are the future, man. It's the way to do things.
Most games are. Honestly,
it
GW is one of the
it's
few
so much
holdouts, I
better.
would say, that I know of. All right. I think I think that's a good spot to call it for the evening. So we did, at least as we hoped / wanted to be able to finish up our introduction. Our introduction obviously is a little bit more in depth, and it's a good resource for someone who is starting out to actually learn a little bit more. From here, a few other spots, like I said, you know, the hope is to be able to go through the various books, talk about the various legions and different things like that. If people have particular things related to Titanicus that they'd like to hear, obviously reach out, let us know. I do post this on the subreddit for Titanicus. I am working on some other social media platforms, like a Facebook. That way, it's, you know, a spot for people if they want to suggest things. Other than that, you can always reach out through email. It's trainkickersnj@gmail.com. For other episodes or other topics that are coming up soon, my hope is maybe tomorrow or the day after I'm recording. Gonna start doing a bit about board games. I'm recording it. The hope is maybe every other week. Currently, just me. go back through some different things that I've played lately and all, and we'll see from there where we go. But we've seen a bit on Titanicus kick, so I think we're going to keep with that as we can, and we'll do some other stuff as it goes along. Although I do want to do a year in review for the previous year, just related to mostly GW, maybe some other game systems, and talk about what kind of happened over the last year and where things are going. I do want to thank anyone and everyone who did listen. The Titanicus stuff honestly went over very well. So if you like it, if you want to hear more ideas, anything like that, reach out and we'd love to hear about it. Other than that, I think on behalf of my two co-hosts for the night, that we will see everyone hopefully in about another week or so. Maybe when we try to, now the holidays are over. Have a good
Yeah.
evening.